These organized.
I know, so nice.
Just a little bit.
It's getting a little bit more.
Please don't say that.
Yep, just stepped out of bed.
All good? Okay. So we, dealing with some feedback issues on another computer. But we'll go ahead and, good?
So I had two friends who told me recently they were back.
All right, we'll go ahead and call our regular planning board meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. July 14, we're going to get ready to go. Start off with our roll call. Now you're just coming in, Mike, so very good.
Had to re-bandage everything.
Oh, no. Start with Morgan.
Morgan Dean, alternate.
Michael Pell, member.
John Racine, member.
Wendy Rathgaber, member.
Rob Wilson, member.
Helen Burko, alternate.
Bill Spence, member.
And Richard is select board ex officio.
Did you hear from Nancy if she was unable to?
I thought she was coming, she picked up the right plan copy, so
Sorry, she was playing tennis the other day.
And Bill Larson?
I didn't hear from Bill at all.
Okay,
But as far as I knew, Nancy was coming.
okay. Why don't we start off, we'll see Morgan and Alan. And see where we go from there. This might get bumped as folks join us, but we'll take it as it comes. All right, so our last meeting, we were so gung ho to get through things quickly that I inadvertently forgot to circle back and do the minutes for the May meetings. So we're going to do that next. We'll start with the May 12th meeting minutes. See if there are any corrections for those.
I have a suggestion on master plan revision. The planning board received a statement from Eric Levy. We should also put Eric Levy chair of the Conservation Commission.
Let's get another.
If this,
Oh, yeah, sure. We move on my stuff.
All right, so we're and Nancy's here. Why don't we unseat Alan? Okay, sorry. So Chair of Conservation Commission?
yeah, on line 32, 33, 34, that right in that area. The suggestion shouldn't be from Eric Levy, it should be from Eric Levy, Chair of the Conservation Commission. Is that,
As Chair of Conservation Commission?
yeah, something to
indicate that it's a
acknowledge
role.
the Conservation Chair.
Any other thoughts for these minutes? Bill Spence, nothing?
The next meeting,
Okay. All right.
You're quite right.
No parameters.
No, I didn't see anything here that,
Okay, then do we?
however,
Well, we'll start, we're just gonna do the 12th for starters.
Yeah.
So any, we have a motion for these minutes?
I move we accept the minutes as modified.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor? I guess we'll still do the roll call since Bill may be joining us. So let's start with Nancy.
Think tonight, yes. Morning, yes.
Mike,
Michael, yes.
John Racine, yes.
Wendy, Rutherford, yes.
Rob Wilson, yes.
Bill Spence, yes.
Rick Reed, yes.
Okay, great. So now we have the May 26th meeting minutes to review. All right, Bill, you're all set up. We're waiting with anticipation. Not to put you on the spot.
I know. I have only one minor suggestion. To replace if with whether,
What line is
where I
that?
think it's,
What is the difference between?
Well, what's the line so we can see the
I gotta find
context?
it first. I think it was 41.
I think that might have been on the other one.
Oh, it is.
Oh.
It's on the
The ones we just.
of the 12,
The
the
ones
one
we
we just
just
approved.
accepted.
Sorry.
So it'll have to stay as is. So I
Okay.
have no corrections for the 26th.
Oh, good.
Okay,
Alvin should.
well, I think it still works there anyway. All right, so then for the, back to 26. Any comments? They're long and involved, this whole paragraph here. So if there are no corrections, do I hear a motion?
I move we accept the minutes as drafted.
I'll second that, John Racine.
All those in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Michael, yes.
John Racine, yes.
Wendy Rutherford, yes.
Rob Wilson, yes.
Bill Spence, yes.
Richard, yes.
Okay. The June meeting minutes have not, that draft has not been completed. You're working on those, Steve, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so we should have those in time for our special meeting, is that right?
That's right.
As you'll all remember, we're meeting on the 2 weeks from today, 28th, right? To review the master plan, so we'll have them in advance for that.
Good. Okay.
Okay, so next on our agenda, let's take on our land acknowledgement statement discussion. For starters, Eric, you was requested to be here for the Conservation Commission to explain the thoughts
Okay,
on that. Would you like to?
I can start. Do you want me to stand there or sit here?
It is kind of like echoey seeing you both on that screen and there, so maybe come
I will
up and
come up.
join us.
Fine, right here?
Yeah, I think that should be good.
I can sit?
If you want, or you can
Maybe
stand, either, whichever you're more comfortable with.
Okay, so.
Sorry.
Okay,
So could you
Yes.
introduce who for the Zoom people?
Yep, Eric's here with as a chair of the Conservation Commission to talk about the land acknowledgement
Yes.
statement that, now, if I get it right, the Conservation Commission has adopted that.
yes, we have voted for it. It's been adopted.
Yep, so in your documentation, you're using it, and then the
Yes.
request has been to put it in the beginning of the master plan.
Right, that's the proposal. So before I get into the nitty gritty, I'd like to introduce a few of our Conservation Commission members, Charles and Jen Lucas. And Kim Rawson is here from the Renewable Energy Committee, and Reggie from the Historical, just as an observer.
No, I'm just here.
Just as an observer. And Denise and Paul Coulier are on our Zoom. Thank you for making it. They are members of the INHCC, the Indigenous New Hampshire Collaborative Collective. Mouthful, so I'll be saying INHCC. All right, so we are here to show support for the Conservation Commission proposal that Wendy mentioned. be included in the master plan, the land acknowledgement. So please be patient. I have a few steps to take and mention and read other comments that have been made. So please try and wait till I'm done before you ask questions. I like to keep things according to the KISS principle. Keep it short and simple. I'll try to be as short as possible. Now, I'd like to focus only on the stewardship of the land. So that's what I will be focusing on and addressing only, the stewardship of the land. So let's recognize that the indigenous peoples have been stewards of our land and natural resources for over 11,000 years. And now the conservation commissions are mandated to be stewards of the land and natural resources. That is it. These are historic facts. Now I will read Fawn Godette's address to you. Dear Honorable Waterville Valley Planning Board members, my name is Fawn Godette and I live in New Hampshire. I'm supporting the proposed Indigenous land acknowledgement. I have strong pride in my ancestry and I am a descendant of the Blackfeet Nation. I grew up in New Hampshire as a child and as an adult for time lived on a reservation. Throughout this, I was keenly aware of the injustices committed against Native Americans and biodiversity in the past and present. Before Columbus era, there were millions of indigenous people in North America, South America, Central America. Sadly, through colonization, millions of indigenous peoples did not survive. The Wabanaki, known as people of the dawn, lived in New Hampshire long before colonists arrived. In fact, they still live here. Indigenous people here thrive and thrive in harmony with Gidakana, which means world for the Wabanaki. Their culture was and is rich in tradition, honor, and respect for their people, land, air, water, and wildlife. Indeed, they were and still are stewards of our environment. By adopting an Indigenous land acknowledgement, you will offer truth and help carry on stewardship of Mother Earth. It is a chance for Waterville Valley residents, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, to honor those who came before them and respect Indigenous peoples who survived to carry on such rich stewardship together for our future 7 generations. Thus, it is a commitment for all the people in Waterville Valley to protect Mother Earth. Please support the Indigenous land acknowledgement. Thank you. In Wabanaki is Olimi. Fawn Godette from New Hampshire.
I don't want to interrupt you, but just if anyone needs to refer back to the statement that we're talking about, it is in our meeting minutes from May 12th, so we'll have it right in
Okay,
front
and
of
I
us.
will read that again since some of you may not have seen it on the post office bulletin board or in the wigwag or wherever else it's been posted. I'll read it again. Okay, the next is Kathleen Blake, another member of the INHCC. She apologized for being unable to physically attend. So Kathleen Blake says, the oldest documented archaeological site in New Hampshire is over 12,800 years old, per Richard Boisberg, retired state of New Hampshire archaeologist. For 99% of the time that New Hampshire has been inhabited, our ancestors were the only people here. We hunted woolly mammoth in New Hampshire, planted the first corn, beans, squash, etc. The feet of our ancestors were the first human feet to touch the soil. We were here before Stonehenge was built, before the pyramids, and for 10,800 years before the birth of Christ. Our spiritual connection to this land has been unbroken for all these millennia and remains steadfast until this very day. We are still here. Truth matters. Please adopt the land acknowledgement. Thank you. That's from Kathleen. And here is our land acknowledgement that we've accepted and voted on. Quote, we are located on Endoctina, which is the traditional ancestral homeland of the Abenaki, Pennacook, and Wabanaki peoples, past and present. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land and waterways and the Aulnauga people who have stewarded Endoctina throughout the generations. So that is the statement that we adopted. Miscellaneous. Okay, the other day we stopped by Smarts Brook Trailhead and we looked at the poster board, and I don't know if you've seen this, but there is a sign with many faces on this poster. Have you seen it? Of all the peoples who have been here for thousands of years, and there's a picture of an indigenous person, a settler, and the words in bold letters are, please don't erase the traces of America's past. And that's official USDA Forest Service. Okay, Castle in the Clouds also has a comment from their historians. This is pretty new to me. So, did we know that Mount Wanalancet is in Waterville Valley? Okay. So, Passaconaway was a tribe chief who championed peace and harmony between the tribes and the European settlers. 2,760 feet high, okay. Passaconaway was succeeded by his son, Wanalancet, who continued his father's pursuit of peace during King Philip's War. He retired from being chief when his population rebelled, and there's also a mountain and town named for him in the Waterville Valley region. A little comment from the Historical Society in Holderness. Malcolm Taylor, also known as Tink. We were introduced to him a few weeks ago, a month ago. This land acknowledgement is part of a national effort to acknowledge our native past. No quote, no one is taking away white-owned land. Holderness School is about to erect a historic plaque at Livermore Hall, which was once an Abenaki site. Final comment from me is this costs you nothing, even though we are asking you to pay respect. Okay, so now I open the floor to you, the members of the planning board. If you have questions, you might want to direct it to Denise and Paul. Again, thank you for coming. Yes.
Where are the settler sites within Waterville Valley?
Do you want to answer that?
So can you repeat the question?
Where are the settler sites, indigenous settler site remains in Waterville Valley?
You can't talk about that.
So there's actually a law that states we cannot talk about archaeological sites in the state. The state archaeologist would actually have to come on and speak about that with you.
So the answer, okay, but you can't answer that question. Okay, that's.
I actually can answer that question. It's just that my hands are tied and you would need to speak with the state archaeologist.
Can we ask a more general question of, are there sites in Waterville Valley?
Yes. Yes, there's a main trail that goes right through the center of Waterville Valley. That was an indigenous trail.
That's not the question that I asked.
I asked a more general one just to try.
Yeah, so I guess the question, so, okay, that's fine.
Eric, could you read the statement one more time,
Sure.
please? That we adopted.
And I apologize if I don't pronounce the words correctly. You can correct me if you need. We are located on Endoctina, which is the traditional ancestral homeland of the Abenaki, Kenneco, and Wabanaki peoples, past and present. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land and waterways and the Alnovak people who have stewarded Ngakana throughout the generations. Again, I'll say, we're talking about stewardship of the land and natural resources. We're talking about the stewardship only. They have stewarded, and now we, the Conservation Commission, is mandated to steward our land and natural resources. That's it.
Rich?
May I ask a couple questions, Madam Chair? First, could you define steward for me? This is one of two questions. Traditionally, to steward something is to look after, to care for, to mind, to watch, to guard, protect,
Yes.
to safeguard.
Yes.
How does use not be the more precise term as opposed to steward, that the indigenous peoples before us used the land as the colonists after that did?
I will start the answer and you can complete the answer. So stewardship refers to caretaking. Caretaking in general. So proper use of the land, proper use of the waterways. Denise, do you want to add?
Yep. So land stewardship is taking care of the lands and the flora and fauna that live upon them. It's about taking care of them in a way that these assets will be available for the generations to come. So the indigenous goal is to live in harmony with our environment.
I understand that, thank you for the answer. I understand the general statement. I'm also looking for something that is archaeologically based or documentary based.
Okay. And the state of New Hampshire published a book, New Hampshire Fish and Game. I have a copy of the book here.
It was a fish and game fur bearing thing. It was done by Helena Silver, I think it was, in the 1950s. And she dedicates like the third of the book describing how the Abenaki stewarded the animals of the forest and how it became the state's practices for dealing with fur-bearing animals. So, you know, the state had already acknowledged in the 1950s that we're good stewards and they needed to have laws to protect the fish and game. And they started using a lot of the principles that we had. So the state had already established some working understanding that indigenous practices were better than European practices, which were basically you hunt and fished until something disappeared. And it was what they were watching was we were more sustainable. Like we didn't hunt deer, unless it was in the fall, and we didn't take a lot of migratory birds until that time period when it was most advantageous, and they'd already fledged their little ones. So a lot of these things became laws about sustainability without even talking about. Nobody even knew what the word sustainability was back in the 1950s, but the principles were always there. That stewardship was very important. Does that make sense? And to answer your question,
that answers the question. Thank you. The second question I have is, I noticed, Eric, that you read statements from historical societies, I think two, if I remember correctly, Holderness and
Castle and Clouds.
Castle in the Clouds. And as you are the chair of the Conservation Commission of Waterville Valley, and this is the Planning Board of Waterville Valley, have you contacted the Historical Society of Waterville Valley and solicited their opinion on the matter?
Very good question. We did when we started this proposal. We talked to Reggie, we talked to Preston and Charles. Didn't we talk to you? Yes. So if you know Charles Hastings, he's not only a member of the Conservation Commission, he is also an archaeologist, a historian.
Well, I guess I'm asking, why is the
Yes.
Waterville Valley Historical Society support your effort, or do they have any comment whatsoever?
My impression, and Reggie can answer maybe, my impression is that they knew nothing and were not in the Lane to do? You can answer that.
Sure. At this point, we really don't have an opinion as a group to say anything.
Right.
Because our knowledge of the history of the indigenous people in our town, yes, I'm convinced that there definitely were indigenous people here in the state. But our town, as far as I know, is that the indigenous people have traveled through our valley, they have hunted, they have fished. We have no knowledge of a stewardship where they stayed in the valley and actually took care of the land, preserved it, or anything else, or of any settlements. So from our knowledge, at this point, there's no proof of any settlements in our valley where people really engaged with the land, other than to pass through on this trail that, it's a definite trail.
So it sounds like it's a preliminary, if anything.
Well, I think that was the answer.
A lot of that is for me, we have not really had in detail.
Well,
There's
thank
no
you.
conclusion.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Hi, my name is Fawn Burnett. Can you hear me? I'm part of one of the groups of people.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Uh-huh.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, go on.
I just wanted you to know I was having a hard problem unmuting. I am on my break from work early, and I am also available to answer any questions. I'm a local. I grew up in the area. Arvit was wonderful enough to read my statement, and I grew up in Thornton, and I also am part Blackfeet, and I lived on a reservation. And I just wanted to share that this is just a wonderful opportunity for Waterville Valley Indigenous and non-Indigenous residents to partake in land stewardship together for our future generations. And I know that that was read, but I think it's really important to know that this is something we could move forward together in, and it's nothing but a positive move forward together as a as a community. And it's not a political issue. It's an environmental issue. It's a human race issue for all of us. And I'm open to answering questions too.
Were you
Sorry.
able to hear?
Thank you.
Yes, yeah, just office keeping. Phil Larson's joined us.
Got it.
So, okay. Seat shuffling here. Okay, are there other members of the public who would like to speak? Reggie?
I am the president.
Why don't you, I don't know if the folks in Zoom land can hear you. You may need to come forward.
I'm Reggie Breckner, and I am a member of the Historical Society and the President of the Society, but I'm not here on behalf of the society. I'm here as a representative of the town, of the residents of the town. And I've got 3 points, and they may not be popular, of course, with you. I understand and I appreciate your passion for this subject, I truly do. But I think that, number one, I don't feel that the master plan is placed to have this statement read. I think my impression of the master's plan is that it represents the next 10 years of our future, not our past. And what we're having there is what we plan to do for the next 10 years going forward. That's number one. Number two, I feel that there is not enough historical documentation of what's going on, of what has happened in the past. And any statement that we make, I want it to be truly historical. Historically based, I want facts and figures and all of that to go into any kind of statement. And then third, I think this is a hot enough topic. I think passion's running wild on something like this, that I think it should be decided by the entire town at a town meeting rather than at a meeting of just a few members of all of the planning board and the members that are here. I mean, we've gotten into issues over dog leashes. I don't think something that is this important statement we're making to the entire world or history, because our master plan is a historical document. And I don't think that we have the right to make that decision for our entire town. So I think this is a very important topic. It should be brought up at town meeting, whether as a sense of the meeting or a warrant article or whatever. I think it's important enough that the entire town be aware of this, not just a few people in this room.
Okay, thank you. Reggie.
Thank you, Reggie.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would, Charles?
I just want to say something that this is about, Indigenous stewardship that will include all peoples in Waterville Valley, and this thing including the past and the present and the future. It's bringing everything together for stewardship and unity together for our future and protecting the lands. That's what it's about. So it's in that way, it's a neutral statement, and it's bringing everything together in harmony so we can protect, Mother Earth.
Thank you, Glenn. Charles?
Yes, Charles Hastings. I'm a member of the Historical Society as well as the Conservation Commission. I should preface that as well by saying that I've been an archaeologist and anthropologist throughout my career. I've spent many years teaching archaeology. I've taught some courses on Native American cultures and their past. I come from Michigan, where there has been, especially at Pine University, a very close relationship between Native Americans and the community. I am aware that archaeology has had a very long and at times shameful relationship to the Native peoples, and there are many issues involved here. I've studied this issue that came before us regarding this acknowledgement. I studied it as a member of the Conservation Commission. I've had many opinions which I've expressed at times. And there are a number of things I don't necessarily agree with. I feel like I do know probably more than many about, at least here, about the last 12,000 years. And I think it is the statement that was put forward and that we adopted as a Conservation Commission and are recommending to the town is a good, solid, and modest statement. As you mentioned, the principle of keep it simple. This is a fairly straightforward, and it's non-committal in many ways. It is acknowledging that people have been here in the past, that they are a factor that we should be aware of. We should honor that heritage. I see no harm in that. I see potential harm in not acknowledging it, because land acknowledgements have become increasingly a lively topic throughout the country, especially throughout academia. I would very much like to see Waterville Valley not get immersed in this. I think it would be, and I appreciate Reggie's perspective as well, but I think this is a low key enough statement that it does no harm in approving it, and it is better to take care of it than to not take care of it now, I think. It's just a matter that we acknowledge this commitment. There were questions here, I'll try to be brief, about to what extent was Waterville Valley, were there settlements here? The simple answer is there has not been enough archaeological research done to actually detect campsites within the valley proper. And these are going to be very hard to ever detect because of the nature of settlement. We have, and it's been brought to my attention since this issue came up, there is some historical documentation. I'm not sure of where it came from, but it does indicate that there was a trail that passed through the valley, more or less following 49, crossed up over probably somewhere by Livermore Pass or whatever, and kept going. And this was very likely used in an important way. It is almost certain that Waterville Valley was an important place in the past as well as in the recent past for hunting and fishing and so forth, by people who were not necessarily living here in a permanent village. If they were, we probably know about that. But yes, it was used in a transit way. I think the statement, and there is actually historical evidence that again, third hand that I've seen, that there was a campsite up by Sandwich Notch, which is actually part of Waterville Valley. That's the nearest thing that I've seen. There were settlements down by Plymouth, et cetera, that are beyond our reach. But I think it's a straightforward enough thing to acknowledge that people have been using the land in the past. I think the acknowledgement is sort of more broadly based. That in fact, it's referring, in my impression, more largely to the state of New Hampshire and Waterville Valley as part of the state of New Hampshire. Okay, and I see no harm in that. I think we should be focused on the Native peoples specifically of New Hampshire who have used the land. Whether they were involved in this part of Waterville Valley or not, it's not so important. That's just simply a fairly safe acknowledgement, I think, to make.
Okay.
And I think we should keep it simple and just move on.
Okay, thank you. Nancy, do you have a question for Charles?
Yeah, I mean, I just had a follow-up question. Thank you. Do we have any sense for how long the path was in use? Was it in use for the full 11,000 years, or, I mean, probably not, but do we have a sense for how long it was in use? I'm just curious. I find it fascinating.
Yeah, well, I'll answer that. I doubt that. But this is not my field of specialty. I focus on the Andes, not so much on Waterville Valley.
Yeah.
I doubt that. It's also very hard. I know this. It's very hard to actually date paths, trails, roads. I've done that in Peru, and the only way you can do it is if you find settlements along them that you can date. And again, it's an interesting question, but to some extent, I see it as unimportant. This would have been a fairly reasonable route for people to go from here to there. And so I thought all along, well, of course they were here. Of course they were here. And of course they've been here for a long time. They may or may not have stayed, how many months or weeks or when they came. It was part of the broad region that they were making use of. And so I'd like to know that too, but I don't think we are.
Yeah. Well, we cover a huge swath of land, the Waterville Valley as a whole, so it only makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Charles.
Should like to be recognized.
Okay. Sorry, I can't quite see. Did Claire, you said Claire?
Yes, it is. Can
Hi, Claire.
you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So first of all, I just want to say, as a resident of Waterville Valley, I participate whenever able to some of the hikes that are offered by Dan Newton is one of the people. So he gave us a hike up one of the trails and brought us to where the, at one point, the White Mountain forests were clear cut. And he said, this is something we are embarrassed about, but you need to know about it. And he said, there's so little left of what happened that it's important for me to share with whoever will listen of what we've done with this poor land. And now we are allowing it to regrow. And the only thing that he could show us was there was like a pit where they cooked their food, and there was some tracks left from the trains that they used to transport the trees that were cut down. And this made me think of my childhood in Haverhill, Massachusetts. And now I spend some time in Marblehead, Massachusetts, where the indigenous people were, I don't even know the word, we were taught that they were horrendous people who only wanted to kill, the whites, and they wanted to take over all the land. And I hear in some of the questions being asked by the council, they sound defensive and you sound fearful. So I believe that when I read this statement that they want put in, that the Conservation Committee would want in, first of all, I think it's extremely relevant. And I think that if we try to forget our past, then we won't remember it. And at some point, people will want to know, how did Waterville Valley think about or treat or honor the indigenous people who actually started and took good care of the land? I don't hear any place in it that they want anything as to be able to come and claim well, we want this returned to us because this was ours. I don't hear any of that. I just hear it as honoring people who were here before us. Of course, they were in Waterville Valley. They were in Thornton. They were all over. And I just think that it's a very simple statement, an honest statement, an honorable statement. And that's really, it's neutral. I just think that it's an important thing to have as part of our history in Waterville Valley. And if anything else, in Marblehead and in Haverhill, they ended up putting up, whether it was a stone or a plaque or something, just letting people know that you don't forget history. You want to honor the history if it is to be honored, and this certainly is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claire. Sorry, go ahead.
Come on.
Yes, come on, please.
Excuse me, right? All right, I'm Randy Breckner, Reggie's husband. I'm a member of the Historical Society, but I speak on my own behalf only. There is a proper venue for dealing with any historical connection to Indian past or whatever through Waterville Valley, and it is the Historical Society. People who are interested in memorializing this history, assuming they can establish it, and that hasn't happened yet, other than the existence of a probable past, but assuming they can establish that, the venue for this is the Historical Society. It should not be an action of the town government without the approval, as my wife says, to an entire town meeting. This is a precedent. I'm a lawyer of 50 years. This is a precedent that you don't want to go down. You don't want the actions of the town to become a billboard for certain points of view that are outside the purview of what you're actually working on. You're working on a plan for the town. Attaching information or positions to that, extraneous to that purpose, serve no good goal and are going to come back to haunt you. You don't want other people citing this is a precedent to get something that they want into the actions of the town government. And this will become increasingly divisive. It's going to destroy the felicity of this community and the unity that binds us all together. This is a very poor path to go down. I'd like to see this where it belongs, and that is with the Historical Society after it's been fully researched. And hopefully we'll have a museum, and maybe there could even be a section of the museum dedicated to whatever the evidence is eventually turned up. And that's my position.
Thank you. Thank you. Kim, you haven't spoken yet? Kim hasn't spoken yet.
Thank you. My name is Kimberly Rawson. I live here and I raise my 3 children here. And I want to encourage this board to not act from a place of fear. That was fear. You're a lawyer, you know how to do that. I have a lot of respect for the work of the Historical Society, so thank you. But we don't need to act from a place of fear. We know from talking to our friends and colleagues around the state that we have Indigenous people here. Can argue about facts, but that's also a red herring. We know when people want to stop change because they're afraid, they'll distract with red herrings. Oh, we need facts, we need figures. Sure, maybe it does need to go to town for a vote, but that's okay. Well, let's not be afraid to acknowledge the people that were here, are here, and our responsibility to protect this environment. If you look at that river right now, it is low. We are in a drought. We have forests that need to be properly managed so that they don't burn down. We have fish that need to be stocked so that we can continue to have fish in our streams. So this is about stewardship. This is not about being afraid to speak of these things. It's not divisive. It's not political. I'm tired of everything being quote political. We are a community. We love each other. We show up for each other. We don't need to be afraid. We don't need to be afraid to talk to each other, to embrace our neighbors, to have productive conversations. We all show up for each other when we're sick. We show up for each other when we lose a loved one. We can show up for each other when we're having important conversations like this. And sure, maybe it doesn't happen here today, but let's not be afraid. This is not about some, awful precedent that's gonna tear the community apart. It's not political. So, I genuinely care about everyone in this room, even if I haven't met you, because you're part of my community. And we need to continue the legacy of stewardship for this land, because it's what's best for our community, to protect our land, our most precious resource beside our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to address that.
Reggie, just so people in Zoom land can hear, I think you need to be up near the microphone.
Please don't speak for me saying that I'm afraid. I'm afraid of nothing. That's number one. Number two, I agree 100% with, yes, we need to steward the land. We need to take care of it. We don't need to bring in indigenous people. We, as the town of Waterville Valley, should steward the land, regardless of what the history was. This is us now. This is not 11,000 years ago. This is what we are doing now. We need to take responsibility for the land now, and I think this town does that. I think, with the water treatment plants and all the other things we've been doing all along, we are trying to steward this land. But I don't think that we need to have a statement talking about indigenous people, or Scrimshaws, or anyone else that has done it in the past. It's us. We are the ones who are stewarding the land now, and that's what our message is
Okay.
to talk about.
Thank you, Reggie. Is there anyone who has
Can
not
I
spoken?
say?
Is there anyone who has not spoken who has an opinion to share? Jen?
We'll start with UNH.
Jenny Lucas, I'm a member of the Conservation Commission, but I'm also speaking as a resident of the town. When we were debating this acknowledgement in our committee meetings, we were very careful, and we were explicitly told this is not something that's being adopted by the town or the town government. In order for that to happen, it would have to go to town meeting or to the select board and be voted on by the select board, or at town meeting by all of the residents. This is simply a statement that the Conservation Commission feels is very important to our current mission of stewarding everything that has been stewarded prior to our arrival into the future. And we are asking for this simple statement to be included in a small section of the master plan that deals with the Conservation Commission. We're not asking for a plaque. We're not asking for anything else. This is a small statement that the Conservation Commission would like to be included, because we think it's important and relevant to what we're doing today. And it will help guide us in what we're doing tomorrow.
Thank you. All right, I understand that there's a lot of opinions and back and forth that could happen here, and I'm just trying to minimize that. So anybody in Zoom land who has not spoken yet,
Yep. We would actually like to make statements. We were asked questions, but weren't actually allowed to make a comment about the proposal.
Okay, go right ahead then. Thank
Who
you.
is this? I'm sorry, I apologize.
Would you mind reintroducing yourself, please?
Denise and Paul Julio.
We'll do it.
Kwai Needlebach, in Delawasin, Denise Pulio, Sagamasqua, with Delawasin, Paul Pulio, Sagamo, Kawasak Band of the Pennacook Abenaki people, Neona Ion Odanako Nipi. Hello, friends. My name is Denise Pulio. I'm the head female speaker, and this is Paul Pulio, head male speaker of the Kawasak Band of the Pennacook Abenaki people. We come to you today from our ancient Pennacook village of Odanako Nipi, which translates to the village of the narrowing of waters, now known as Alton, New Hampshire. We come here today to speak in favor of this land acknowledgement statement. The stewardship statement that is being looked to be included by the Conservation Commission is actually in par with other conservation commissions across the state, as well as conservation societies, including the Federal Forestry Service, who we've been partnering with on working on federal forestry problems, which would include Waterville Valley.
We also we were involved with UNH. UNH has adopted the stewardship statement because UNH was a land grant college. In other words, the monies from other tribes by taking land in the West was converted into state property for the UNH system. UNH wanted a stewardship statement saying that now they own the responsibility of stewarding the land and conserving it properly. We've been working with major land conservancies like TNC and ASSELT and others, and they've all embraced this idea of good stewardship. In fact, we're trying to reconstruct what the forest looked like pre-colonial, and that's why we're working with the Forest Service. So this is not a political statement. It is a conservation, a sustainability statement. As far as Waterville Valley, we do know that caribou were migrating in the earlier years, well before colonial contact. Caribou came up from the Carolinas and ended up north in around Berlin. And we know there was a path and trails. We followed the caribou and hunted them right up through Waterville Valley to the north. So the presence was mainly for hunting the caribou, which eventually were driven out or made extinct over time. You know, the history here, we started these land conservation stewardship statements. We've been working all through Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Many towns have already looked at this and embraced the idea that they are now the stewards. This is not a political statement. It's no slippery slope of setting a legal precedent for anything.
Right. The only precedent you're going to be setting is that you're showing the next generation you care enough about them to steward the lands to make sure that they're going to be here for when they take over.
I'm quite offended by this fear factor thing. Like, if you give the Indians anything, we're going to have casinos and they're going to take all our land back. This does not happen that way. Right. Nothing like that happens that way.
And I just also want to state that the town of Durham, New Hampshire, has adopted a land stewardship statement that also included the terms unceded lands. So they even went a step further than what we're even talking about here. So what we're talking about here is really about, stewarding the lands. And this has nothing to do with land claims or anything else. And even with Durham's adoption of that land statement, no land claims have been made. So this is nothing but fear tactics. And our goal here is to maintain this planet. We're in crisis and we need to do better. And by adopting some of the indigenous practices that had maintained these territories for over 12,000 years, where we not only survived, but we thrived in our environment, that together as a community, we could do better. And so this statement is an acknowledgement of the indigenous stewardship past, but that now we today as Alnabak human beings are stewarding that now. And that's not just saying that indigenous are stewarding it now. That's all of us. That's why it says Alnabak. It's human beings, and every one of us is a human being.
And to further that, the U.S. Federal Forest Service already has recognized the severe conditions that the White Mountains may go through if we have protracted droughts. The people that we're working with are the same people that are working in California and trying to deal with the wildfires there. So if you want Waterville Valley to be an inflamed area, go ahead. Say there's no indigenous practices here that need to be looked at. And forest management is one of those things that indigenous tribes have been working with the country right across, in the Great Lakes area. There's a great camaraderie between indigenous communities and the Forest Service. I just find it surprising that Waterville doesn't want to sustain or maintain good practices. That's all. I mean, and if you're trying to base it on archaeology, that's ridiculous.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your statement. All right.
Can I say something before I have to go?
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Could I just say something? Yeah, I really appreciate what Denise and Paul and Kim and everyone in support have said that. And I want to say that I am in agreement with that, and that this is about inclusivity and protecting the planet and moving forward together in unity with Waterville Valley for all people. And no fear tactics that's not, the truth is, we were here before, we are here now, and we want to protect the land together. It's a national movement, like in New Hampshire, we've been working on it, and nationally together, stewardship, protecting the land. That's what it's about. And I hope that this does not become deterred, far away from what the actual goal is. It's simply a neutral statement to protect the land, protect Waterville Valley moving forward in a positive manner, and using the practices Denise and Paul said to help protect it, along with everyone together. And that's where, let's move forward in that manner in unity. And I really hope we can do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'd like to just bring things back down a little bit. I appreciate all the passions that go with this. I just want to recap and reread the statement that the Conservation Commission requesting that we add in the master plan. We are located on Nakina, which is the traditional ancestral homeland of the Abenaki, Pennacook, and Wabanaki peoples, past and present. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land and waterways and the Anabak people who have stewarded Nakina through the generations. So I know a lot of the conversation got a bit further reaching than this, but this is the statement that the Conservation Commission is requesting us to add into the master plan. I do understand that the master plan can be seen as a town document. It is a planning board document. Of course, we want to, and we reach out so that we can include the town residents and property owners in creating the document, but it is ultimately a planning board document. That's kind of where I'm at right now. So I understand that perhaps this could be seen as a stepping stone to having something that is added to other town documents. How that would proceed, I guess it's hard to know. That's where I'm coming from right now. I'd love to hear some other thoughts from other planning board members, alternates included. I'd like to have everyone be part of this. Alan?
With all due respect, I think it's disingenuous for you to think that people that are opposing this statement are not interested in stewardship of the land. I just don't feel that we need to have the statement in order to be good stewards of the land. Let me start with that. I agree with Reggie. It's not about protecting our land. Well, let me go somewhere else. The proposed land acknowledgement statement for the Waterville Valley Master Plan was taken from the INHCC website. What wasn't put on with that statement is the land recognition statement was created by the INHCC in consultation with local tribal leaders and indigenous peoples elsewhere. This statement is dynamic and may change depending on the changing goals of the collective. So I said, all right, let me look at their website and see what the goals of the collective are. Directly from their website and their references. Land acknowledgements have been used to start conversations regarding how non-indigenous people can, quote, support indigenous sovereignty and advocate for land repatriation, and, quote, taking collective action toward land repatriation to indigenous people in the ongoing struggle against colonization. You got to take them for what they write on their website is as critical as what they're saying to your face. This is what I'm finding on their website.
I think I'd like to keep our comments to the statement. I understand that different people who are suggesting things, different groups have different politics. But I think just as a planning board for the master plan, the statement that's in front of us, I'd like us just to keep our discussion to that if we can.
Hold on.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Well, but I think you let them go off on tangents and say this is not a political statement. I'm trying to show you it is a political statement.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, what about the statement is political? You've explained that the politics of one of the groups that.
The group that wrote this. The group.
They're here.
Right,
They're here.
okay, but that doesn't mean that the statement itself is political, and that's all we're talking about here. So we want to focus on the words of this statement.
And I'm
We
not
don't
really
really care about.
And I'm not
You
trying
know
to
what?
treat people
It's
different.
sort of like the Wizard of Oz. Don't look behind the curtain. If you don't look behind the curtain, you're not going to find anything you don't want to see.
But we're looking at this statement,
Yeah.
and
Alan makes a very relevant point.
Let me just, go ahead.
Go ahead, finish your, I have something I want to say too.
Regarding the statement, I'm gonna cut out most of this stuff because that's inflammatory. Regarding their statement that the request to start meetings or official town documents with acknowledgement statements is rooting and reversing the erasure of Native Americans. There are opposing professional indigenous opinions on the value of the acknowledgement statements. The Association of Indigenous Anthropologists requested that the American Anthropological Association pause land acknowledgements and the related practice of the welcoming ritual because the historical anthropological facts demonstrate that many contemporary land acknowledgements unintentionally communicate false ideas about the history of dispossession and the current realities of American Indians and Alaska Natives. And these ideas can have detrimental consequences for Indigenous people and nations. So those professionals tell you don't do this statement.
On the other hand, Charles was talking about the awful history of archaeologists and Native peoples. So I would say, okay, well, we can suspect that group too, of having out there.
We have an official statement here. That's all.
Yeah.
Being entered into the record for consideration.
Okay. All right. Well,
I think the statement's great, and I think that the point is, does it belong in this document? I would say no. From the standpoint that, again, the substantiation of, the information, so on and so forth. And I think it's really that simple. I don't know if we need to rip through the statement. I think we need to decide, does a statement like this belong in the document in the first place? And planning document.
Okay. Other points have already been stated here, but I think that, everyone in this country already knows that the Indian tribes were here before settlers. That is, I don't think that this is planning board business. And if Waterville residents want the statement included in their town document, they can indicate so by voting for it at a town meeting. It is not the prerogative of the planning board. We're appointed. It's not the prerogative of the planning board to do this. And the very nature of these statements is polarizing. Some people like it and it displeases other people. If the planning board operates with the trust of the residents, our defined role makes it imperative that we remain impartial and unbiased. It's outside the role of the planning board to support any ideas of this nature. And consequently, this statement has no place in the planning board's master plan. Our objective is to produce a document that will be read. Master plan readers are looking for information that pertains exclusively to our town and its affairs and its future. It's the planning board's best interest to concentrate on producing the best master plan we can and to stay as far away as possible from politics as possible.
okay, thank you, Bill.
That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
Well,
Okay, I'm with you.
Going around or, go ahead.
no, you guys go. I was
Okay.
speaking of.
So I submitted my statements in writing. But I think the point of a master plan is to acknowledge the past, right? It opens with when Waterville Valley was settled, right? So going back to that, that's our past. So we can go further than that if we would like to. But the point of a master plan is to guide the past, present, and future of Waterville Valley, right? It is a document that we refer to when we need to do X, Y, and Z. So I think it's very much a part of the master plan in that respect. This is, in my opinion, apolitical. I fail to see how it is controversial. We all understand that Native Americans are literally indigenous to this area. And our values line up with these values. We want to honor the uniqueness of the location. We aim to be good stewards. We want to highlight what's beautiful and the natural resources that surround us. And I think it's that simple. It aligns with our values. I fail to see how it's controversial, and I think as the master plan as a document, this fits in well with that.
Morgan?
My issue with respect to everyone is it controversial? I think the last 45 or 50 minutes have demonstrated that it's controversial.
Yes.
The statement is, yes.
Wait, the statement going into the master plan and the statement in district is
Can you
controversial.
clarify for me? I have not heard that a word in the statement is controversial. What I've heard is you don't like what the group who may have contributed to writing it believes is controversial, but I haven't heard anything about any words in the statement that are controversial. And until I hear that, I think you guys are not really talking about what we're talking about.
If I could, it's pretty apparent from the last, how long we've been, hour or so, that it is a controversial topic, whether it's the statement itself.
But that's what we're talking about.
No, we're talking about its inclusion into the master
Of the
plan.
statement,
Into
not the group.
the master plan, but the point of those, again, you can see, we're just going back and forth now, you can see the sort of statements that were made by town
Right,
residents.
so I'm asking.
And the fact that we have, yes, but let me just finish, the fact that we have people from outside, political advocates from outside, and advocacy from outside trying to convince us to put this statement into,
Well, you're saying political.
into
They're
document.
not.
Well, I would strongly.
This is who they are.
Okay, no, I would strongly disagree that if they represent a group that's political in nature, it's a political advocy group. And let me do it this way.
I take offense to your statements.
I take extreme
We're tribal leaders, and your city, your town is part of our tribal territory.
Yeah, okay.
I see my
Whoa,
point being made.
Okay, right now, no, wait,
I want to
wait.
rehear, I want to
Wait.
hear what she just said.
Yeah.
Hang on a
No,
second,
no.
but no, we need to establish some order. Wait,
Just-
Nance, give me one minute. We just need to establish some order here.
Yeah.
This isn't meant to be a big fight, you know, as Kim said, we're all here together. We all appreciate each other. And let's conduct ourselves that way.
Exactly.
We're just having a little board discussion now. For anyone else who would like to contribute, please indicate, and let's not just jump in and turn this into a screaming match.
May I continue with my comments, Madam
Yep.
Chair?
Yep.
So I do believe, and I don't believe it's an insult, it's why the group was formed, and I don't think there's anything pejorative of being a political advocacy group. I think there are many political advocacy groups, and that's a good thing. They are the transmission belts of our democracy. That's not what's issued here. What issue here is the political underpinnings and the use of this statement by political groups to advance a specific agenda. That's what makes it political. And that's why something like this properly belongs at town meeting for the advocates who want to push this as a statement made by the town. I am the chairman of the select board. If the town votes to adopt this statement, then I will sign it regardless of my personal opinion. That's my role as the chairman. But that's where it belongs. I believe it was mentioned by our guests that the town of Durham adopted the statement. Exactly, the town of Durham. I also found out the town of Dover adopted the statement. Exactly. I don't see any master plans. I wonder how many master plans, if any, have such a statement attached to it.
Actually, Tara, can you answer that question? Do you know, if you've been following our conversation here, do you know of master plans that have included a land acknowledgement statement without the town having voted it in first?
I wouldn't have that knowledge other than for the towns I work with, and you're the first where it's come up in regard to the master plan.
Okay, thank you.
So I would strongly support, I think it was Reggie who first brought it up and others, that this issue really belongs at town meeting, given the passions that we can just see here in the last hour. I think there are 9 of us maybe on the board who are here. You've already heard 4 of us express reservations about this. And it's my understanding that a planning document like this, and it is for the planning board to use, although it will become an official town planning board document, I would think we'd want consensus. I would think we want to leave out anything in the master plan where you have such passion, we have at least 4 of the members opposed. I would say in at least 3, maybe 4, maybe even 5 cases strongly opposed to it. So what I would offer, very simply as a compromise, and I think Morgan put her finger on it. We have a statement at the beginning of the history section, which starts, I don't have the exact, someone could pull it up and I screen.
I have it right here.
It's the history section start, how does it start?
Well, 1.1 is it's the first official sentence other than the table of contents, and it says, the town of Waterville Valley, comprised of 64.4 square miles, was incorporated in 1829.
I'm talking about if you go down to the resource chapter,
Okay.
and there's a section in there on history. Because I think any acknowledgement or statement, that would, to me, from a practical standpoint, that's kind of where such a thing would belong. But I do want to provide some language. So if you could find that entry.
So can I ask a question? And you and I talk about things all the time and everything else, and I understand what you're saying. I think the first thing we have to do is decide whether or not we as a official committee of the town, and this becomes an official town document. Do we want to put the suggested documentation currently into this document?
Well, that's what I'm working on. What I'm trying to say is that there's another way to get at this, and that is, could you read the first sentence, please?
Waterville Valley has a colorful history, first as home to Native Americans for thousands of years, and later as a source of recreation and timber by Europeans.
I think we can strengthen that sentence with something along the lines of indigenous people have a long history in New Hampshire and likely engage in hunting, fishing, and other activities in Waterville Valley. We could make a mention of a trail that existed in Waterville Valley, although we are unsure, although the archaeological or documentary record is unclear that there was any settlements of indigenous peoples in Waterville Valley. I mean, to me, that's sort of the nonpartisan statement. We're a nonpartisan board. This creates a lot of heat just on this board. Why not just a simple statement that strengthens what we already have, recognizing the previous existence of peoples who came before us?
I understand. My issue is that, and I have a problem with a lot of the history that's included, because this is a full. The purpose of, I'm reading the first sentence under the purpose of the master plan. The purpose of the master plan is to guide the future growth and development of the town. That is the purpose. Now, I understand we have history in here with this, with that, with everything else. The purpose, the reason we have this document is not backward thinking, it's forward. What do we want this town to become? Yes, what it was in the past is very, very important. I acknowledge its importance. I've done a lot of research on this also. I can't find where there was a settlement here. My understanding is that it is probable, which is I guess more than 50%, that there was a trail, a hunting trail that went through Waterville Valley. Is this a contentious statement? I think an hour and 10 minutes of discussion, people from outside coming in to advocate for it, demonstrates this is a contentious statement. I think that before we do anything with regard to this, because it is so contentious, it is a town decision, not a 7-person decision.
Okay, we have,
Research. I don't know if they're gonna say that.
sorry, who was it that,
Paul and Denise have a hand raised.
okay, go ahead, Paul and Denise.
Thank you. First, I just have to acknowledge that I am absolutely shocked how much time is being wasted on looking for archaeological evidence that you clearly already acknowledge that we were there. All right, so that just absolutely shocks me. But the initial thing reason why I raised my hand is I feel I need to clarify I don't know the gentleman who made the comment. I don't know who he is. But we are not a political activist group. We are a tribe. We are a tribe that has filed for federal recognition, which includes your town. So we're not just an outsider. Your town is my part of my community, part of my neighborhood. So I take high offense to the fact that we're being treated as outsiders.
And INHCC is a research team. It's a research team. It's not a political action thing. We're devoted to finding the history and decolonizing a lot of the narratives that were done by the Puritans, which were false. And our whole thing is to look at colonial documents and go through the weeds and find out what the truth was. So what INHCC is a think tank. It's a research group. It includes historians and archaeologists and a whole cadre of people. There's over 30 areas of study going on at INHCC, and they cover everything, including how to protect our environment. Most of our projects now are CARPE, which is climate action with the Arctic. We're also doing seacoast activities. We're trying to preserve your lands for you by doing our work, our homework. So we find it offensive you take INHCC and use it as a beating thing to beat us down and say, oh, you're just looking for something. It's a political action group. Well,
we're not. We're trying to help the community and preserve our environment so that there's future generations of humans to live on these lands. And I think that's the purpose of the commission.
Can you let me run it, please? Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Rich, if you wanted to make a question.
Yes, since I was referring to the person who made that, my name is Richard Rita. I'm the chairman of the select board of Waterville Valley. And I was not referring to the tribe, I was referring to the INHCC, if I have that right, organization.
Which is a statewide organization.
Okay, I understand that, but you make a point of what you say that you are. I have one quick question. Are you an IRS recognized group?
Are we a what?
IRS, do you have a 503?
Yeah, when we apply, the federal government requires a nonprofit organization with every tribe that files for federal recognition. So yes, we have a nonprofit called COAS North America that's been in existence for nearly 30 years.
I'm talking about, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I think for today, I really like Rich's idea of elaborating in the history a bit for expounding upon the Indigenous history. I don't at all want to set this aside. I think it's a really important topic. But this board has taken minutes going over semicolons and creating the master plan. So a statement like this, I do feel like perhaps it needs more of a town agreement. I don't want this to be part of our master plan and have it be the only thing that folks focus on, because we have so much in our master plan that it's something really quick, Garrett.
Yeah, very quick. To answer Bill Spence's question, the initial reason we started this proposal to the planning board was we saw all the referrals, to the land preservation, conservation commission. Again, stewardship is what we're talking about, not archaeological sites. We want to acknowledge and honor and respect the Indigenous peoples for their stewardship, past, present, and future.
Yep.
We are working with them. You can't deny it with the Forest Service and all.
I don't think,
No, nothing political.
I
Acknowledge that truth, and that's all we're saying.
I understand
Don't
that.
go off on tangents.
My point
No, I
is
do.
that.
Wait. We're not, let's not do the back and forth. I do
They say
understand.
something, we say nothing.
Well, we're looking for public feedback for this so we can discuss it. I don't want this turned into a back and forth between the board and the public. We've been at this for quite a while now, and I think it's time to move ahead. Nance?
Well, I'd love to just make, maybe this suggestion helps, which is that I thought Rich had a great idea, which is, I think we do need to build up our history. I think we found out some stuff that probably should be added to that first paragraph, and I agree. But I also agree that this statement is about land stewardship, not about history in its purpose. So maybe we should put a title, a heading over it that says land stewardship statement, so that everybody knows this is what we're focused on, not history. And that's how we present it, so that nobody confuses it with a history statement or an archaeological statement, so that it's not part of the Historical Society, it's part of the Conservation Commission. And that we think of it as something that goes in the Conservation Commission section of the master plan. This isn't for the whole master plan, it's not for the history, it's for the Conservation Commission section of the land portion of our master plan. So I think we were thinking about this in too big a term.
That could be a way to go as well.
Yeah.
Especially since the Conservation Commission has adopted this as their statement for all their documents, right?
I think that it's in the Conservation Commission, of course, is a separate statutory body, and they are have every right to put what they want in their documents. I think changing the title of it doesn't change the essence of it. I think the compromise I offered gets to, we could add, I mean, hunting, fishing, and we could add stewardship if you'd like. I would suggest that we ask the Historical Society, as we've asked other organizations in town, to provide the planning board with a sentence or two in the history section, which addresses such things as stewardship, in order to get to the fact that the indigenous peoples came here, and were here before us, and that they were stewards of the land, they hunted, they fit, etc. Whatever we think we're comfortable with saying, I think something that stays based on those types of facts, and it's in the historical section, is what we, I think, want in a planning board document whose main purpose is looking ahead. This is a small section, looking ahead for development over the next 5 or 10 year period.
Would it, along those lines then, should we also ask the Conservation Commission for a statement to add to their section that's perhaps not this official land use statement, but something that could help incorporate some of the more salient points?
Maybe the Historical Society could have a little call out box with their statement in the history section, and the Conservation Commission can have this statement in their section clearly labeled. This is part of what the Conservation Commission believes in and hopes that the planning board works towards, which is good conservation and stewardship of land.
I
Non-political,
have to think about
and
it,
it's
but
totally in the conservation section, and it's part of their beliefs.
They have a whole committee which has decided this. It's our planning board document, it's not the Historical Society. I don't want to dueling statements of what could be perceived as dueling statements in the document. Madam Chair, I think you were going down the right path about forging a compromise and I offered some kind of language, but and I've not talked to the Historical Society about this, but I would request that the board, as you wrap this up one way or the other, ask the Historical Society to provide us some language as their input into it. I think we have a large section that the Conservation Commission on natural resources that the Conservation Commission has already provided the board. And we need to move on the master plan.
We definitely need to move on. And I like the idea of broadening the history. I hate to in any way make it seem like we're tabling this land use statement, but I do feel like it's a larger town discussion. I mean, yeah, for this long of a discussion with just this small percentage of the town's population, I think it's obvious we need to move this forward and the appropriate steps to get to a town meeting discussion, because it's important. I think these types of acknowledgements, I understand, and I've seen them in many different organizations that have used them, from towns to universities and colleges. But I feel like it's a matter of a town decision.
Wendy, can I ask?
if I could
Oh,
just finish this one point.
Okay.
I've talked to the chair of the Conservation Commission, and I applaud their passion and devotion to this issue. And I've offered to help them write a petition warrant article to get it in front of the town. This, I think, is the right venue for such a statement, not modified by us, but just whatever it is that the Conservation Commission wants, and advocates and other advocates in town want the town to pass a judgment on. So the offer is still there. If you'd like help, you come from the select board, or you can come to me directly, and we'll go over the process on how to petition the warrant article for next year's town meeting. And I wish you good luck.
Okay, Tara, what was your point?
I had a question. As the town's planner and editor and author of the master plan, my approach has been to listen to all of your conversations and come back with language that I think everybody can live with. And I thought for a minute that I heard it in what Nancy said, because I thought what she was suggesting was to add a factual statement to the section that already has a heading Conservation Commission, to say that the Conservation Commission has adopted the following statement to guide their work. What was that? That just kind of got skipped over. I didn't really hear planning board members respond to that.
Yeah, why would that kill us?
It's part of their section. And it definitely defines where it's coming from. It's not saying that the planning board agrees with it.
And it's within the context, and it can be conceptualized as this is about stewardship.
With respect, I always respect you and everything else. This is our document. We are voting on it. We are agreeing to it. Regardless what is put in there, it is coming from us. We have voted for it.
I think that's very much the issue. And
that's my issue with
you already
putting it somewhere,
perhaps
putting it anywhere in this document,
4 or 5,
anywhere, any statement, any statement whatsoever.
So I think that's your answer, Tara.
Okay, so what's I need to leave the meeting knowing what my.
Doesn't mean I disagree or agree.
Right.
So I'm gonna receive some language from Rich that augments the historical section is that gonna, for the land use history or for the historical resources section?
Jack, what is it more? I'm sorry, it's such a unwieldy document to begin with.
It's section 5.5. Section
5.5, and I'd be happy to be the transmission though, but I think that perhaps I've how do I want to put this? I've soiled my nest, and I may not be the best person to advance a compromise on the part of the those who advocate this. So perhaps
I don't deal directly with your resources. I take
the Historical Society. Okay, that's where I was going.
I need a planning board member who's volunteering.
I'd be willing to do it. I just don't want it to be seen as my statement.
Would Nancy, would you have time to work with Rich on that? Or Morgan, would you have time?
Someone.
I'd be happy to. Okay.
Okay, I'd be glad to work with Morgan and the Historical Society.
Okay.
And coming up with language for that 5.5 section.
Okay.
Great, I'll look for that.
Okay. I really appreciate everyone's taking the time this morning. This is obviously a very important issue. I just think it's a bit larger than our board here and just deserves the respect of the entire town's discussion before we incorporate it.
So I move we table the discussion.
Well, I don't think.
I thought there was that this was being put forth as a motion.
No, it's just been a discussion.
It's an agenda item, but it doesn't require us to vote on.
Okay, good.
We just.
And the chair decided to.
Right, we have our path forward, right?
Hopefully.
The select board will work with the Conservation Commission for bringing it to the town, if that's the way they want to go.
Yeah, I'm glad to help them.
And yeah, we have that on the record, so.
Good.
I'm fine.
We good? And then, yes, we'll have the language to broaden historical context. And hopefully find, we agree with all the grammar on that. in a timely manner.
And miss semicolons.
Yes. Okay. All right, so again, thank you everyone for your input with this. We really appreciate it. I'd like to move on to some of our new business, if everyone's ready. Do we need to take 5 minutes?
Oh,
yeah.
Just saying.
Let's take 5 minutes. See you at 9:35.
And young guys too.
Yeah.
Hey, Alicia.
Build this 57-year-old in the valley.
Yeah.
What they say now, right? Good. All right. So our next item on our agenda, we have our working with Tara, of course, on the master plan. Been trying to keep an eye a bit on the budget. We are, working through, and we probably need to augment it a bit, depending on how things go over the next couple of months. But we also, before figuring out, the budget in regards to the master plan, wanted to talk about other potential amendments that we'd want Tara to help us with. There have been a few things that have come up in our discussion with the master plan, a couple of things that seem like they might be simple, and whether or not the board would like to move forward with anything else, or if we're just focused on the master plan for this year and we'll tackle other items for next year. So just wanted to get a feel from the board as to how they want to proceed.
Could I add one item to that list?
Please.
Madam Chair, the rules of procedure. Can we look at the rules of procedure? I was looking at them, I got a copy of them recently. And there may be a few things in there. I think they date from 2011. So they're 11 years old. So perhaps we can add that to the list of things we should do, whether it's with Tara or not. I would think so, but.
Can you distribute that to everyone?
Well, I mean, I think.
It should be part of your binder.
I think it is somewhere.
The
Yeah.
2011.
If you can't find them, you know, we like to get them.
So I would just add, if you agree, the possible fall discussion item, which probably, but I'm not sure would include Tara.
I could just take an hour to go through what you have and with a red pen, if that's helpful.
But everything you do for us is helpful, so I would not. Yeah.
Do you want, do I need to send it to Tara or does she have it? I'm not sure.
We can go ahead
You
and
want me to
send
send it
it.
to Tara or?
I don't know that I have them.
All right, I'll email you a copy of them.
Okay, so if we have that, are there any other items that, as we've been talking through the master plan, that folks want us to circle back to this year, or should we just make our list for next year?
When do we have to, maybe this is a question, I apologize, I have a problem pointing with this hand. If this is going to go before the town meeting next March.
The master plan doesn't go before the town meeting. Are you talking about potential amendments?
Potential amendments.
Oh, zoning
Potential
amendments.
amendments, yes.
Right. That would have to be done by January, December?
At the very latest.
Probably
Usually
earlier,
by
we have to have
December.
public hearings,
Yeah.
but we do need to survey and see if there are any zoning items that we really want to try to.
Right, so that would have to be done by November, October?
Yeah, pretty.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to put
Right,
in my tiny brain,
Yep.
old brain.
We usually do it October.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just so we had a timetable in our.
Yep.
My old man brain.
I mean, Tara, was there anything that had leapt out at you that that would be relatively simple for us, that we should look at tackling for the rest of this year, or are we better off waiting for next year?
I don't have anything else on my list for you guys for this year. And I think as far as implementing the zoning changes in the zoning change recommendations in the master plan, I'd recommend that for next year.
Mark just reminded me that we had a request from at least one resident to relook at housing in C1, whether we still want to retain housing in C. We do allow housing in C1, and this particular resident was concerned that it was eating away at our commercial base if C1 was developed more as residential as opposed to.
C1 is inside like the circle.
I think all of C1 is in that circle.
Where I am.
Where, yeah, that big parcel is essentially C1.
Well, out to the arena.
Out to the arena, right to the pond
Yeah.
and right. And across on the, is that VC or that's VC on the other side?
VC.
It's just within
Yeah.
Just
the
within
road.
inside.
Yeah.
The
Right,
issue
so,
is erecting condominiums.
so the additional 4 townhouses that we've already approved,
That's
Right.
done deal.
Is
That's
already- is right, that's
That's
my,
in C1.
that's fine.
We're not
That's
going
my-
backward, we're looking forward.
That's my,
What's
that's
up?
my understanding.
But that's what precipitated the discussion.
Oh, no, that-
Heating up all of this.
I understand.
Is that something the board would like to tackle? I mean, we had tried it in the past with a previous property owner, and very quickly came up against a wall. But we could certainly, perhaps it's our responsibility to at
Certainly
least
discuss it, maybe.
It
discuss
is
it.
cl-
Yeah,
clearly within our purview to discuss.
yeah. Tara, were you about to say something?
You'd certainly want to, if anything you do like that, look at what you have in the draft master plan and be driven by that language.
Sure. Okay. So, sense of the board, yes, we would want to look at that. Existence of housing in C1.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a discussion, just to
Yeah,
decide not to do
exactly.
anything, we
Right.
decide.
Yep, okay,
I agree with Al's discussion.
okay. All right, and then Tara, can you give us a sense for the hours you feel like you have remaining to help us pull this all together for the master plan, at least for this year? Just, looking at budget.
I haven't looked at the budget
No, but as far as what we have remaining.
for
now that-
work. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna have any idea of that until I see whether the board like you have in front of you today, the edits.
Yeah.
Right, and then in 2 weeks, you'll go through the whole document. And you've gone through all the chapters 2 or 3 times with a fine tooth comb. If the board redoes that all, then that's a lot more hours than
Okay.
if not. So I just can't predict that.
Sure, no, that makes sense. We'll have a better sense after the 28th.
Yeah, because every set of amendments, edit takes formatting. So, if we're close to the public hearing, then that's one thing. But if there's a lot of, revisiting narrative that you've already gone through a couple times, and that's a lot more.
Okay, that makes sense. So we'll have a better feel after a special meeting.
Yeah, I could totally give you an estimate after that.
Okay. Okay, great. Now, has everyone who needs a printed copy requested one from Alicia already?
I'd like an updated PDF sent to me.
You did receive that from,
Yeah.
okay,
Too many versions.
okay.
So Mike, you need. what
Yeah,
here?
just to make sure I know, I have so many versions.
The thing is, I'll be sending out an updated one, another update after today's meeting.
Don't do it.
So I wouldn't, if you're looking for something to use after today's meeting, I would wait, Mike. You'll be looking at the wrong one.
I probably am now.
The one I sent out was just for today's meeting, and then I'll incorporate any changes you make today, and I'll send out a clean formatted one for the last look for the meeting that's in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
How difficult is it to produce one in Word?
Well, I work in Word, but it's way too big for an email.
Is it? Define too big.
I can believe that. Maybe in pieces.
Well, it's got pictures and all sorts.
It's 67 megabytes.
Yeah.
A lot of people, yeah.
More than twice, but most email.
Yeah, most emails want to take 20, 25.
That's why.
To do it in,
I hate to ask this, I know.
All right, so,
we'll deal with it later.
what would we, Tara, what would you like us to go over today with the version that you'd sent out?
So today, just the marked up changes, and I can also put them on the screen for Bill in the Word document, so I can make any additional changes while we're right here.
Okay.
There you go. Somebody.
So the first thing highlighted was there was a remaining change about the language regarding the village, where I went through the document, and anywhere I had said the village area, where I was referring to what I thought was, the village area town, you wanted to just call the village, right? So we don't have to talk about every place I did that. If this is what you had in mind, then we're good.
Yeah,
On page 1. Yep.
Yep.
Hey Tara, on that same page, can you add a title to the chart or the table?
To the maps.
Yeah, I think everything should have a title on top. That's not, a pretty picture. You should say the point of what you're looking at.
Yeah, I'm just making a note to do that. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Let's see. I have noted page 2.
2 of 117.
Wow.
Wow.
Page 2 is just such a minor thing, right? It's where we
Page
the
2.
term village.
On page 2, not page 2 of the PDF document, not.
It's page 4 of the PDF. It's page 2, and if you're looking at the numbers at the bottom.
Right, that's where I am.
Hey Tara. I found this helpful for me, so I'm just wondering if it would help everyone else. Next to village and village core, I had put parentheses, and then in quotations, like next to village, I put village in lowercase, because that's really how we're using it, and that's what it says above. And next to village core, in parentheses, in quotations, I put village core in lowercase, because that's actually how we're using it. You know what I mean? So that it kind of shows, okay, in you, or you might even want to say in use, this is how we're using it.
Sorry,
Because-
I don't get it. It is lowercase.
Well, but on the pictures, right?
Because they're titles, Nancy.
Yeah, I know, but all I'm saying is, because there's extra room, if you just add, a little thing that says, then when people are flipping through, it's, it just made it easier. For
I don't
me,
know.
but
To me, that's going to be really confusing. These are titles that you asked for.
You don't have to.
I think that would be confusing. I think it's clear that it's lowercase in the narrative.
Okay, like I said, it only helped me.
Page 13, which is 15 in the PDF, with a page number 13 at the bottom. I'm not sure which number you guys want me to give.
Hey, I think document page number. Easier, at least for me.
Yeah, I think the document number is fine.
I start with the current pages.
13.
Okay, so this is just to show you another change that was made throughout, that we won't go to every page that it's on, but I was asked to change Recreation Department to Parks and Recreation Department throughout.
Yep.
Yep. And then if we go to the recreation section, which starts on page 28, there's a number of changes in there, so we'll go through several pages we'll go through this whole section page by page. Starting with page 28, And here's a change in the. Change 30. Change in the. I was asked to put like this additional sentence into the table that. So it's not out of date next year, but it's clear that it's just an illustration rather than an inventory.
Okay.
Is everybody good with the new sentence?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
And then in the table, we made Parks and Recreation, and I'll just scroll through to get changes.
I had a comment on this. I don't see hockey in here, which kind of, it could be just winter, but it's really fall, winter. It's kind of two, but I think you put it
Even
on.
in spring, because they do it.
Yeah, it ends, the end of March.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it could be in the 3 season, just, that might be the easiest way to do it is, well, there's not an indoor section there.
I think when we say 3 season, we usually mean spring, summer, and fall.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, hockey goes just a week into spring, but so either there or in winter, but I just didn't see hockey referenced in here.
At all.
And we do reference it a ton in the in the text, but it's not in the chart anywhere.
Yeah, and it is year round.
Well,
We have summer, fall, winter, and a little in the
no, there's
spring.
really no hockey in the summer. They
No,
do
hockey-
put
the
the
hockey-
ice back
There are
on.
hockey tournaments in a week from now.
Oh, there is this
There
year.
is.
Okay, so that's a
It's
change.
really becoming a 4-season activity.
Which it is. That's good that they did that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's becoming, becoming.
Summer
It
tournaments.
was-
It was.
And I'd like to add that under year-round indoor sports, Waterville Valley Ice Arena is there.
Okay.
Yeah,
The question is, hockey should be under the activity, because it just has, ice skating.
Yep,
So we should just add hockey to that list.
and then we're covered and we're good.
That's
All right, cool.
Good move, Vance.
Nancy, can you point me to what I'm doing? So I just added hockey right here,
Yeah, that's page 28, yeah.
like this.
Yeah, I think it's in alphabetical order, so you add it before I see.
Oh, fine.
Yeah, I know.
There, good.
Okay, yeah, it's perfect.
At the beginning of the table, under the first section, recreational activities, Tai Chi, is there supposed to be a slash in there?
Yes, it
That's
has.
right. So
Yes,
it's
right.
It should be.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're quite right about that.
Yeah.
It's an apostrophe.
Yeah.
Okay.
T apostrophe.
Thank you. Really.
Does the slash still belong in there?
No.
No.
I took it out.
Yeah, perfect, thanks.
It's hard to see when something's crossed out. Cultural activities, I had that addition from Wendy here. Good.
Waterville Valley Athletic Club, isn't it the White Mountain Athletic Club?
Yes.
Yes.
Where? That's in the, right there. Yeah. got it.
Good catch.
Good.
Good.
This was just writing out the Jets junior enrichment through sports. Here. Then there's a new table from Nancy with the ski ownership and then the land ownership.
Are we on,
What page?
34.
34?
Yeah, 34
Yeah.
and 55. Yeah, I don't think everything needs to be underlined.
That's underlined because it's new text.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
When I click don't show markup, it won't be in blue or it won't be underlined. And the table won't be shaded in blue either.
Yeah.
You wanted some other ones?
But those are definitely the thing, things to keep an eye out for in the final draft that you get next week. And just, a heads up that I also have an outside peer reviewer who, when you notice the public hearing is usually when I give her things to take that last look at for, if I say the table on the next page, that after reformatting it 8 times, it really is still on the next page. That kind of peer review is a free service that you get through working with me. I'm a retired colleague via the barter system.
Nice.
And then that's just the sources under, and Tim had given Nancy some feedback on that. So
Yeah, I ran a fine.
so these tables have been vetted. And then the same with the ownership history of
Yeah,
the.
I couldn't find a single source for this, so I thought it'd be good to have.
Yeah. So he's listed in the sources. Yeah. Okay, we'll go on. There was a change from Wendy on the summer camps, and that's on page 36.
So that particular summer camp that you're referencing is not a town. Yeah.
We are not under the town section, no.
They're actually-
We're under the Waterville Valley Resort section as a recreation provider.
I would just worry that people don't read the whole thing. Is there a way without making this overly cumbersome, just to, most recently, the resorts, Cascades, summer, just to make it plainer, that there are 2 summer camp, even though it's in this section, I just worry people looking at that. Because I think there has been confusion, don't we get confusion, telephone calls and stuff like that for the Cascades at Rec Department?
So maybe add ski area after resort, so it says Waterville Valley Resort Ski Area has offered summer camp.
No, their name is Waterville Valley Resort.
No.
It's not the ski, and they,
Resorts.
the resort operates the ski area and the resort operates the summer camp.
I think, I like your idea.
I'm not pushing. it.
Resort,
Possessive.
possessive.
Yeah.
Okay, done.
I like that idea. Every once in a while. you come up with it.
Very rarely, very rarely. Not without intention.
Oh my God. Let's go back.
I think
I hate to bring this up.
Why are you looking at me?
Well, I'm looking at everything. The skateboard park.
did we go by that already?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was right under the summer camp.
It's going away. You're right.
I've spoken to the resort people, other people. My understanding is that it's at a minimum, not a permanent thing. And in the foreseeable future, clearly within the 10 years, it is not going to be where it is and it's going away, is my understanding.
But it's here now.
But that's what it says.
And the future relocation may be necessary. Did they say they would relocate it?
Maybe. But
So we
I got
don't-
no
if we
official
don't-
comment
Yeah. if we
other
don't
than
know.
it is. other than it is in all likelihood in the near term, not going to be there.
So should we say relocation or removal?
Yeah.
You understand what you're better.
Yeah, they're
with
constructing
than I am.
So just say relocation or removal.
Yeah.
and that
What
can
if
be-
we say is likely, relocation or is likely?
Yeah, relocation or removal or elimination may be necessary.
Its future is unclear and.
I'm just saying that-
It probably have to be relocated.
Right, as it stands, it's at best misleading.
Okay, so.
I apologize for
No,
going
no, no,
backwards.
this one,
Somebody.
relocation or, yeah. But I think that's.
You guys are better wordsmithers than I am.
How's this?
Yeah.
Okay. Mike? Did you see the-
It says future relocation or elimination is likely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
That's fine with me.
All right, I'm getting away from that.
I just don't want it to be misleading, which I think it currently is.
Well, we were trying to make the point in that it's on a spot approved for parking, so it's gonna have to move, but we'll say it. Okay,
Well, move intimates that it will continue in some form, and I don't think there is a commitment by
Right.
It's not.
any,
a master plan.
right, it is not by any entity that I know of, a commitment that it is going to be, that we're going to have a skate park in Waterville Valley forever.
yeah, so I've made a note for us to look at that in the action plan, because we have it in there too.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
This is hard to read, but it, because of the strikeout and red line, but I've added an explanatory title, and the key, I took it out of the narrative and put it in the top of the map as requested. It'll be clearer when you have a clean version. Oh no, if I do that, it's moving. Parks and Recreation, Ice Arena. Made a couple tweaks to the Ice Arena section. Page 43, it would be 45 on the PDF. I just some input I got from Nancy. I just tweaked the language a little bit so that instead of 20,000 to 30,000 visitors, it's over 20,000. And clarified that the estimate of the 10 million per year was the Hockey Academy's estimate rather than, I mean, even though it was in the source, I put it in the sentence.
Okay.
As well, just to clarify that it's not the town standing behind that estimate necessarily, but Hockey Academy.
But
That's good.
the point you made, I think you're probably best positioned, Madam Chair, is it still October through March? Are we back into summer tournaments?
I mean, it's hard to include it in a broad, because it's like 2 weeks.
Just
so
this
like,
2 weeks that you know of, and then they might.
For
they may
now,
not.
yeah.
But they are selling ice time again for hockey tournaments in
the summer.
In the summer.
Yeah.
So maybe as a general statement, we want, we say October. THA runs hockey tournaments 20 plus for 20 plus weekends
That
per
was
year
directed from the website.
between October and March. I'm sorry.
That was from the website.
Okay, but we now know they've moved into.
Can we just say, put a
fine right away.
put at the end,
Yeah.
in other words, saying per year, and then not say between October and March, just eliminate that. It says that we're doing 20 plus weekends per year.
Yeah, that, I think that works well. It's the rest.
That eliminates the question.
Yeah.
Generally between October and March.
Or just.
Usually.
Primarily.
Yeah, I just don't,
I think the town
whatever.
manager found the word.
Okay, well, is that true? I thought that would be true.
Yeah, it is.
That would be true, because then they do it almost every weekend.
Yeah.
That's the
Okay,
density of the season.
okay.
I mean, I'm looking at their schedule right now. They have
Yeah, but it's going
August
forward.
5th, August 12th,
Yeah,
September
they're back.
16th, September 23rd, September
Yeah.
30th.
They're back to pre-COVID.
Yeah, they're doing a lot, which is good for the valley.
So should I just eliminate between October and March or put primarily in front?
I think primarily. is
Whatever,
good.
whatever. I just think that you
Okay.
need something there.
Yeah.
The one change I think I went by mistake was where we refer to the Ray Center, I added cultural, so it's Ray Cultural Center. And then I made some edit based on input from, this looks like a typo, input from the
I'm reading.
input that Mark sent me from the director.
Yeah.
We didn't really change anything. But I didn't really see substantive changes in those edits, except that we're not talking about the observatory anymore.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's the only substantive change I really saw in the edit.
Air storage. You look inside.
Everybody else set with,
I'm not laughing at you.
everybody else set with the changes on page 47?
Yep.
And then there's more on 48.
Do the people that have gardens pay a small fee?
Yep.
Yes.
So should we, where it says, the raised garden beds available for use, maybe for a small fee? I mean, do we care? Do we
Instead
care?
of use.
I don't care, but I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, you probably should say something like that.
I leave the wording to you, as I always do.
Did you hear that, Tara?
Sorry, I didn't.
Okay.
You could say for a de minimis fee or for a small fee or.
Just say for rent
Where are we looking?
instead of use.
I'm Sherry's looking
Is the
for
garden home?
47.
Yeah.
So bottom of 47, the blue.
I was on the next page.
I'm sorry.
That's why I didn't follow what.
I'm a backwards person.
And I have a short memory. I couldn't find where we were because I was on the next page. So what are we doing?
At the community members for rent, make space available for community members for rent or available for rent for community members.
Yeah, because, I mean, the students don't rent them,
Right.
so.
So
makes sense.
where
So
we're-
I put in community members for a small fee.
Yes, good too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Better. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm backwards.
Stop going back.
Is the I and N small or large in progress?
Where are you?
In progress, I can't tell if it's a small I or a capital I. Oh, thank you.
So for a small fee, to the community members for a small fee and for students.
Yes, right.
Yep.
Otherwise, it says the community members have to pay with students.
Yeah. Good move.
Yeah.
Servitude.
What size lot do you get for first grade?
I'm trying to foresee these conversations that could come up in 2 weeks.
Maybe you'll take one.
Who else?
So then, can we go to page 48 and there's a whole new paragraph here that came out of there.
Shouldn't it be like after speakers, comma, classes, and public? There's like and classes and public.
Yeah.
Music in the Valley, I'm told, is very effective.
When it could be confusing like that, you usually use a semicolon instead of a comma.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Are we done with the race center?
Are there any other comments in this
so.
paragraph? Are we good?
Something special about the art walk? Why is it capitalized?
Why not?
It's like,
Because
That's what
it
it's
is a
called?
program of peers of the race.
Yes.
Here's on page 49, a new section from Wendy for the golf club.
I
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mark?
From an enforcement standpoint,
Yeah,
I don't know that might not lead to questions.
okay.
I just wonder why we would want to say that. It may put other boards in a difficult position because it's going to look like the planning board is supporting that use and or whatever.
Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of what you said, Mark.
Well, from an enforcement standpoint, Tara, if it's found that the use that's outlined there is not necessarily an allowed use, not by the planning board, but by other town entities, it might put the planning board at odds with.
So should we just not have that in there?
Well, I think commercial use is the phrase.
Yeah, commercial
That-
use.
commercial use is an
Use the
issue.
word commercial.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
It's a tricky word.
It
It's,
is, it's
Let's
very.
use a different.
it's
I don't,
accessory use.
what are you
is what we're getting at.
what are you trying to accomplish by making this change, just overall? What are you trying to point out?
It was just expounding on what else is happening there, right?
Well, yeah, because there's different activities going on there than used to be. You know, expanded the deck and all that. I mean, it accurately reflects what we're doing, but if it's gonna cause trouble, let's get rid of it.
All
Yeah,
right, so there's, and the sentence after recreational use, and that just.
Even there,
Avoid the word.
expand it to what?
Replace commercial with
We
expanded.
allow other activities than pure recreational
It's
use.
accessory. I think if we talk accessory use,
Yeah, so this way we don't,
the owner has expanded the golf clubhouse or golf clubhouse to include other
Other
accessory uses.
I think it's more than accessory though.
Well,
Well, if you go down that path,
But I'm saying, the fact of the matter is, for example, that there are, my understanding, at least two paid concerts that are gonna go on there this summer.
it's still
which is-
accessory to the golf.
right.
well, I think that's,
well, that's the.
that could be an issue.
That could be an issue.
But I don't think we want, I think we want to say, what we want to talk about is accessory use here.
So-
Otherwise, Mark, as Mark points out, we're putting ourselves into a bad position.
All right, so maybe say it's 2 additional accessory uses? Is that?
Well, I
Yeah,
think
I-
that's the issue. I think that's Mark's issue is they may or may not really be.
I'm
accessory to the golf.
just trying to understand why we would want to even add that
Okay.
comment at
Okay.
this point, because I think it just muddies the water. That's all I was. if there was a purpose that you were trying to.
Yeah, I think it was just
I just think
clarification.
that
Yeah, thinking back to the
we can
discussion
see
about it,
just
clarification.
questions
So-
that we raised right here in 5 minutes.
Yeah, just-
I'd rather it not have to do it.
So
Just get rid of it.
Let's just strike it, take it back out.
Take it out.
Yep,
Yep.
In other words, you
never
keep the
mind.
Restaurant and bar.
You
facilities.
put it back.
Next time.
Oh, wait, do we want the restaurant and bar facilities?
Yes. I
Why
mean,
would
I
be
think-
bad? Don't erase the
No,
whole thing.
he's come in, he's gotten approval from the planning board
Yeah,
for the changes.
just the
that
first sentence
he-
here.
Yeah,
Yes.
What, oh, were we taking that out and adding something else? I'm little. Is this definitely coming out?
No, just the first sentence, not the
the
second.
first sentence, leave this, you can leave the second sentence. That's not the issue.
Right.
That first.
And read it back, please. Just for
Right.
us old people.
Although, like, all they're doing is taking out
Just take the
that
first
first.
sentence.
Taking out the first
Yeah.
sentence, second sentence, okay,
Right.
okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And then we have a replacement graph from Nancy on page 50. And I think, I mean, the replacement was to put in was to replace the title that in a more explanatory way. And get the acronym out of the source, right? Is that right, Nancy?
Yes.
So you've seen the graph before. Does the explanation and all work for everybody now?
I understand, and the graph is accurate. My issue is that I hate showing something that shows a significant downturn when we've already seen this year a significant rebound, which is kind of not shown. That's, you know.
Well, but I think the
That was
overall
the point.
impact was, I think Nancy, in clarifying the title, was trying to point out that Waterville Valley's decrease was less severe than the national, right, Nancy?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that, we don't really use the data of COVID to base any points on, because it's too high. So we go before that to talk about anything.
I did. I just look at the graph.
Yeah, but we showed as much as we had.
No, I understand that also. I do understand. I just don't like showing a downturn without perhaps saying that we anticipate a significant rebound or something along those lines.
Except, I mean, that's not her point. She's trying to show that you have an even more resilient recreation base than the rest of the country.
That's a strength.
The point in the narrative and table in graph isn't, oh gee, we had a downturn. It's the point she's making is in the narrative above that it's more resilient.
And our state's known for recreation.
Yeah.
I think that's a very meaningful graph for that reason.
Okay, I just, yeah.
Nancy, could you eliminate the graph and use a paragraph to say the economy, the outdoor recreation growth in Waterville was 30% affected, 30% less than the national average? And just eliminate the.
I like pictures.
Except
like
the
that.
graph,
I'm into pictures.
the graph says a lot. Yeah, I'm a visual learner. The graph works well for me.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, you could always limit it out with that.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's an important part of her story that she's telling in here of, here's what we have to work with, and we should be making the best of it. And then a little further, she's reworked the other graph here, the table about the various outdoor activities, and she's simplified it and grouped those together that had recent growth and exist in Waterville Valley, and those that exist in Waterville Valley and had shrinkage, and those not applicable. And then they're all in one color. The orange are the top half state ranked, and shaded were the ones that had declined. So it's trying to get some elements into color and shading to make it simpler to look at. So, I mean, what I see as a visual learner when I look at this is you want to keep building on the winter sports, right? Is that the story I should see, Nancy?
Well, from our perspective, at least it gives us hope that that skiing, which is our anchor sport, is not, tanking. So that's kind of a relief. But I mean, it does say that the top 5 most popular outdoor activities by U.S. participation rate are not winter. Of course, a lot of the U.S. doesn't have winter.
But when I look at your two tables together, if I go back to that one, right? That is what I come out of it with, that here are the things on page 51 that you want to pay attention to because they're the most popular in the country.
Right.
And like you said, that you have a stable base in the skiing because they're very popular activities that are still growing along with the other snow activities. Yeah. So I mean, if that's your point, I totally get your point from your tables at a glance now.
Yeah, I think the title of the table on 51 got knocked off. I think we send it.
Wait, let me get. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know where that went. Sorry.
That's right. I'll get it.
What did it say, Nancy?
I'll just resend. Probably.
Would it be in that Excel sheet?
Just reshoot.
Of course.
All right, move on then. I couldn't actually, I'm sorry that when I did this, this happens every once in a while, I had highlighted well-established, the growing hockey community and well-established organizations such as Waterville Valley Adaptive Sports, blah, blah, blah. I had highlighted well-established because somebody didn't like that term, but I couldn't actually remember why you didn't like it. So I just took a shot and changed it to local organizations.
Okay.
Was that, I just don't remember that conversation, and I didn't think you wanted to pay for me to listen to 2 hours of meeting tape.
Yeah.
Does that work?
I think that's fine. Sure.
Okay. All right, that was the end for the edits to recreation. And then there was this one change on page 56 in groundwater. It was just a change in wording asked for that you thought would make this clear about where the groundwater comes from. Originating from the north along the Mad River tributaries. Is that good?
Yep.
And the next edit, there was just one other little thing in hanging out there in natural resources on page 66. Let's see what that is. No, that was just that in the web address for the Historical Society. So that was not substantive. So the next substantive thing would be page 74 in land use. And that's just that I wanted to make a note to tell you, I'm still waiting for the updated zoning map to appear online for me to use so I can do the final version of this map for you. Mark, do you know what the status is there, or Steve?
I do not, we'll have to ask CAI, so.
Because I went to do it the other day and went, oh, not yet. It's gonna take a while, and I realized I'd still be working with the wrong base map. So I'm gonna have to add the road names that I put. You guys have me put where it is more. You have road names in your map, but you can't read them. So you had me put readable ones, but I'm gonna have to do that all over again when that work's gonna have to all be redone because you wanted the new zoning map under it. So
Yeah, the problem with the map is when you zoom out to get the entire village, the road names disappear. If you zoom in, the road names are there.
Yeah,
So it's a function of GIS system.
yeah, it's a coding error in their system because when you should be able to read it at whatever scale you're looking at. So it's a coding error they have in there. But anyway, I'm gonna have to redo all of that.
When you're editing this, Tara, could you make a note, the special civic and the recreation zone colors are very close together.
I can't change the colors. That's built in.
See, that comes from CAI.
Yeah. I'm using your online zoning map.
Yep, okay.
And dumping it into a PDF, and in the PDF, putting those road names on. That's why I'm gonna have to redo it all.
Understood. We'll talk to them and we'll get them to change it. It's just, especially for the Packard's Field, White Mountain Athletic Club.
It should take them literally 5 seconds to change the color on something.
Yeah, it just needs, it's right, yeah, that's way too close. No.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing not done yet anyway, is that.
Okay, we'll get that worked out.
And then on page 75, there's, I received revised wording from Rich on the chapel.
I think I'm good.
Do we want to put a sentence after that? This plan was opposed by a vote at the 2022 town meeting?
Well, I have a note to ask, on the action plan, you should be saying something about this, whether the planning board wants to support this or not. That should go on the action plan. I wouldn't add the sentence you just said, but I would either be silent on it or choose to support it in the action plan.
I think it's too controversial.
Yeah.
I think the select board is silent on it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Ball is in
I
the chapel
agree.
police court.
I agree.
But they still have plans to develop a portion of the land as, in addition to private jets, doing plans to purchase
They have plans,
acres of town. That is still correct.
but currently,
That's all.
that's, the town voted not to
We're
support
not
that
talking to them.
now.
I'm
Currently,
not talking to them.
no, I'm not accusing anybody of anything.
They intend to go forward with it, and they intend to go forward with a petition warrant, I believe.
I understand
For
that.
their info session that I heard. I have another one, I think, this Saturday.
This Saturday, but we went to the first one, I don't know, go to the second one.
Yeah.
Unless they
Snowy Owl,
feed, unless they
4 o'clock.
Is
feed
it
me.
4 o'clock?
Are they gonna feed me?
Yeah, actually,
This is,
and wine.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
All right, I think we put on this, and I
I guess
made a
people
note.
with good weather. Yeah.
Could you just put to be discussed at town meeting or?
I think being silent on it is probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, like silence.
So does that mean we remove the whole thing or just leave the same sentence in there?
So that was the only minor edit hanging out there in land use. All the rest are in infrastructure, starting on page 88.
88. Progress.
I'm not
My
sure.
touch screen really speeds these meetings up.
I'm a little bit.
Don't be shy.
So
I'm not-
None of us here are.
I'm not sure why we took out the golf course's plans for, barbecues or whatever he's doing, and we're putting this in.
The chapel.
We're putting the chapel in, but we deleted the golf course's future plans.
Well, no, all we did with the golf course was take out the reference to commercial instead of recreational.
But my point is,
Because that is a potential issue.
It alludes to that we.
and this is not a potential issue.
Well,
It's not a zoning.
We need to approve it. It's nothing we
It's
can
not a
approve.
zoning enforcement.
But I'm just gonna let it go, it's fine. Thanks.
It's not a technical zoning issue.
Not any zoning issue. It's a town decision issue.
Whereas the wording of recreational and commercial
But it's zoning.
specifically.
We can't say.
Yeah.
I'm on page 88.
88,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, my God.
And I think these are hanging questions that Mark hasn't had a chance to get back to me on, and
I would add West Branch / West Branch extension if the board is okay with that.
West.
As one entry and
As one
in the row or column, either way.
Yeah, and West Branch extension is from the White Mountain National Forest boundary by the electric substation
Yeah.
to Triple I Road, across the bridge. That's considered West Branch extension.
We maintain.
And we
The town
maintain.
maintains. it.
Town maintains.
Even though it's
Class
Forest
five.
Service.
The town doesn't plow it, the
No.
state doesn't plow
No.
I remember that.
it. We do?
We do.
Uh,
We actually, never. Bean vendor through Greeley Hill Road need to be not folded.
Oh, I see, yeah. Take one by the other.
yeah, I see that. But so, Mark, is this length still correct? The 3,950?
Yes, I checked with Jim and the 3,950.
Okay, so did you also check this difference between what you gave me in the narrative and what you gave me in the table? Because the narrative said 6.7 centerline miles, but the table seemed to add up to 6.9.
I did not check that with him. I will check with Jim and email.
I have a question, and maybe Rich or Mark can answer this. I was listening yesterday to the discussion about Tower Road, Stone Tower Road.
Lane.
Bloodstone Tower Lane, which I didn't know the town kind of maintains.
Does maintain.
It's a fire.
It's a fire.
It's a previous select board.
No, I understand.
determined that it was a
The
fire
question,
lane.
the question is, because we maintain to some degree, is that something that has to be in here?
It is not a class 5 highway. It is not recognized by the state. It is a separate statute that the selectmen are working under specifically for fire lane. And so it does not, I would not include it in here because the board at any time can vote to rescind that classification. So I would not address it in here.
The only reason I ask is the sentence that says, this brings the total town maintained roads.
No.
Yeah,
So
Mike,
we're saying it is not classified as a road.
Mike, that's not town
No, that's fine. I just need in my tiny brain to understand that. You don't understand.
I can explain that.
No, you don't have to.
Okay, but maintain means a certain thing in, as Mark is saying, in terms of funding and road classification.
Okay,
And if you listed something that's just a fire lane, somebody might be able to come back in and say, well, I want to be able to drive on that year round. Why aren't you taking care of it? It would be very misleading.
Moving on, please.
I just thought I'd ask, you understand?
Okay.
So page 89, so I put in some more explanatory language about ATV and the pedestrian study and what level of service is.
I have a question where it says the town should continue to seek alternative for secondary access. I'm just curious, what would be possible?
Where,
In other words, I'm looking on page 89, I think where we are. And in the 1, 2, 3, I guess that's the third paragraph down, the last sentence. I understand the safety issues of only having one way in and one way out.
Oh, okay, right.
And then the last sentence says, the town should continue to seek alternatives for secondary access to the town in addition to.
It's turned III into a four-season, year-round road. I think that's what we mean in that sentence.
Yep.
So there's only one way in and out.
Yeah, we know
Is
that.
it the in addition that's tripping you up?
Where, I'm sorry.
The very last sentence of the third paragraph on document page 89.
Yeah.
Would it be more?
Begins, the town should continue to seek.
Would be more clear.
I'm just asking if there's any alternative other than making triple I.
No, there are no.
There was no other reasonable alternative other than making triple I a year-round
Correct.
road. That would be my,
No one's planning to build another road in.
No, but the last part of the sentence is in addition to.
That's what we're asking if that's what's tripping you up.
To the seasonal availability, see, that's.
Right.
In addition
to.
Right. Yeah.
It just reads to me like there might be an alternative to making triple I. I just don't, I'm not you understand what I'm saying, Rich?
Yeah.
Beyond the seasonal availability of triple I road.
Yeah, that's probably better instead of in addition to.
I'm just asking the question because it seems to read that there would be an addition.
We understand your point.
I mean, another road is going in, but.
Helicopter, always.
Yeah.
I would put a period after the word town, take out in addition to. Because that's what our hazard mitigation plan says, is that we're seeking, whether it's
Triple I or any other.
expansion of triple I or it's some other space, that the secondary access is the issue.
Okay.
So we strike that.
Year round, should we say the word year round then, because that's what you're implying.
Should continue
Because otherwise
for
we
year-round
get seasonal.
secondary access to town.
Yeah.
Period.
So add year round.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just reading it and.
We want.
I mean,
if we're
if Forest
unclear,
Service let us, when you have $50 million, we can build it.
No problem at all.
So
Well, we're gonna have 25, so.
Why don't we
so?
Yeah.
Again, don't
I
say
know,
that.
I can be very bad, I was known for being very bad. But weird sense of humor.
Okay.
I'm just.
So I think that's
I'm not
clear now.
disagreeing with
Okay.
you. I got lucky.
95, page 95 is the next.
5. Hang on. Look.
I'm right.
95. Oh, God. Okay. Uh-oh.
And this is just, again, moving the explanatory text into the table and taking it out of the text. Is that clear to everybody?
Yep.
And the next place is on 98, and I think that's a place that I'm looking for.
98.
Looking for Mark to follow up.
You'll have it today, sorry.
Where are you?
Just the language for the.
Oh, okay.
The town office
I
needs.
was actually trying to read something. Silly.
And then we go to page 100. And there was a note, somebody was gonna send me something about garbage disposals, but I just went ahead and did it.
Yeah, we will be addressing page 99.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Nothing, I just looked at your highlight we need to revisit the MSW thing. And we will, just before the meeting.
Yeah, and is this language all right with you, Mark, on the garbage disposals?
So far, yeah.
Yeah.
Should we be more upfront about this and have a box that says our town policies to encourage people to not use the garbage disposal and instead compost?
I don't think this is the place for that.
Okay.
I think we'd have 1,000 boxes on all educational points in the plan.
I mean, a lot of houses are going up, so I mean, it's kind of now is when we should probably get that message out. Maybe there's another way to do it, but.
Well, yeah, you could put an action item to do for somebody to do outreach on that,
On recycling?
on composting.
Composting.
Solid, the municipal solid
Yeah,
waste.
we're gonna be doing something with composting. I'll talk to you later.
We can do that. That'd be the solid waste committee.
Yeah, but
That's a good point.
discussion with maybe an article in
No,
papers,
I have something.
you know, instead of using.
We've been talking about
Or even
that.
installing garbage disposals.
Yeah, we've been talking about some of
Yeah,
that. That's the action plan with this place.
yeah, but this is good to say why.
I think this was in my notes from last time to add when the rec department was added on, but I couldn't find it anywhere and nobody sent it to me. So I took out the place that had a year and just had it be when the vote was made. Just to
Okay.
I was just trying to move forward with some of these hanging things that I hadn't gotten information on. Because I think frankly, I think you're getting to that time where you need to move on to public hearing and call things pretty good, not just good enough, pretty good. I think you guys did a great job. It's taken a while, but I think you're there. And then at the last meeting, again, the comment was made to somebody was gonna send me more information about the current population trend, but didn't. So all I did was take out this sentence that it's not yet known how many of the families will continue to make Waterville their primary home, because your gut feeling is a lot to have, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of do know by now. But just since nobody sent me anything, I just took that sentence out. And I think we're good.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's good.
It's not only how many will continue, it's as our population grows, we don't know how many new ones are coming in. For that matter.
And then there was some other edits from the narrative from the race center. And, I did this one on my own. It was earlier when you talked about local organizations, but I put it under the Curious George Cottage as well, that they had created the Curious George books, because until I was working on the plan and saw that, I had no idea why that building was called the Curious George Cottage. Or who the Rays were. So I think it's worth having here where you're talking about it. I think that's important.
Okay.
It's a neat factoid to not have people forget.
I have a question and I'll ask Leah, actually. I don't know whether or not the Rays wrote all of the Curious George books or if some of them were written post-Rays. 'Cause I think the Rays only wrote.
Many were written post-Rays.
That's, so I have a problem with, created the Curious George books.
But they created, but they were the creator.
Characters.
They created the books as
They were
well.
the creator.
Just the
But did they
original,
create all the books?
the original 5 or 6 titles.
5 or 6
they
titles
did,
they did.
But then Houghton Mifflin has a license and of course run with it. So they have
Right,
money.
so that they've done.
But
yeah, I
they
get it.
created, yeah.
Okay. I'm just, you understand what I'm saying? It kind of intimated to me that they did all of them, which they didn't.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that they wrote and illustrated all of them. They were the creator of the series.
Yep.
So.
Okay, I'm just.
And we added that the observatory is inoperative. Some changes down here under, I think this is just reorganizing this section. The bottom of 102.
Looks good.
I think those were changes made at the last meeting. But where we made the pond be a small p.
Right.
The trout grow about 3 inches. I think those were changes, I must have tracked changes on at the last meeting. These would, I think some of these might be changes you made at the last meeting here.
Is it still an earthen dam? With the rebuild?
It's a reinforced.
Okay.
Reinforced earth, yeah.
Okay, I'm just.
Put metal
I.
pads over the dirt
Okay.
for $600,000.
I knew that we did it, I just didn't know it was still earthen. That was,
Taxpayers.
we should.
And then you made these minor edits to the ice arena at the last meeting as well. I'm gonna go through these kind of fast because these weren't actually between meetings. They were the changes you made at the last meeting. About the library being formerly a one-room schoolhouse.
Okay.
Water supply, on page 107, you changed major drawback to challenge in being all on the west side.
You can get at challenges.
Mixing tank.
Is that date still accurate, October 1st?
What's exactly it saying?
I just didn't know if this date is still accurate. The town must complete the replacement of the wastewater treatment plant and treatment lagoons by October 1st. Is that?
2026?
Yeah, is that still,
That's
date still accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
The permit started.
I'm right. Things changed in that area, so.
No, that was the permit. They
Yeah,
gave us,
that's fine.
I forget how many weeks.
I love it, makes sense.
I forget how many, yeah, they gave us a set.
Do we have a, God help us, an estimated cost, or should we still say we don't know?
Can we focus on just finishing this up?
I can talk to you later.
So the next change between meetings is down on information technology on page 110. And this narrative that Steve provided. Some new language for information technology, and then this new cybersecurity section. So this is new language between meetings.
You know, when I read this, Steve, I thought you must have worked for the federal government at some point in your life, right? You're correct, Rick. Have begun to leverage resources. Oh,
yeah.
Something I read. 40 years.
And is everybody all right with the information technology language? I can't see nodding, so I gotta.
Yes, I think it
Somebody
looks
in
good.
the for the chairwoman to say yes.
Sorry, yes, it looks good.
And how about the
I threw a comma after the term.
Where are you, Nancy?
Cybersecurity?
Under
No.
cybersecurity, I don't think there should be a comma there.
You're correct. Absolutely.
Okay, I agree.
Grammar Maven strikes again. Are you okay with Maven? Are you okay, Mike, with Maven?
Yeah, well,
Grammar
not
Maven.
me,
I can
but do
say
we
that.
really, are we really thinking about going from an org to a gov?
Yeah, absolutely.
We are?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna have to change my, never mind.
It's recommended.
No, I know that. Just
That way all the targets will be in one.
all my buttons have to change.
One of the notes I had was, and this is on page 111, was to note importance of taking the school into consideration. So that's this last sentence on this first paragraph under the CIP. I thought that seemed good enough.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I located on a small town-owned and maintained parcel.
Was there a change here? Sorry.
I wish Mark didn't have to leave, but it is, the tower is located, it's not actually owned and maintained, adjacent. Yes, that's good. Sorry, I misread it. I'm good.
Oh, I hadn't gone on to the tower yet.
Or that's just CIP.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I will happily go on to the tower.
The tower is good.
And I think this sentence was from Mark, I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
I
fine.
had a question, but it was misperception on my part.
All right. And then we talked about adding the fact that since you don't have public parking lots, the EV charging needs to be located at lodging and recreation destinations. So that's just this last sentence on page 112.
Yeah. Yep.
Wendy, is there, are plans really concrete about putting two at the Welcome Center?
I know it's in discussion. I'm not sure how concrete they are.
Okay, I just want to say we're
I think
concrete.
discussion is the right word.
Okay, then we should, thank you.
Yeah.
And then
Except, I don't know that the Welcome Center, I suppose it's a recreation destination.
Man.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so I mean, so,
It's not. It's
Yeah,
not.
but it
So
doesn't
we're-
matter.
Yeah,
Huh?
it's
It's
not,
not for this
it's-
discussion.
yeah,
okay,
we're,
Sorry.
it's okay. We're good.
was this good?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
close enough.
That's good.
Right. And then I went ahead, because we're getting to the end, and wrote an introduction for you to the action plan, because it's, while I'll be giving you the Excel spreadsheet so you can update it easily over time and sort it and search for planning board, town manager, so forth. It, in the document, the master plan document, it's actually going to be in the text. So this would be its introduction to it before I copy it in. That's going to make just for whoever asked how big the file was, that's going to make it a way bigger, having a big, huge table in here. So, so I needed you to have a look at the narrative that introduces the action plan on page 114.
Okay.
I had a big sigh. That wasn't good.
No, I think it looks good.
I think.
Because it's 11 o'clock. Or
Yeah, I think it's more of a time related.
all right. We're getting there.
I make a quick suggestion on that.
Oh, Steve, go ahead, Steve.
Do you think it might be important to spell out a little more, in a little more detail, you know, what the
what the plan looks like to periodically review and update the action plan outside of just, it's something we intend to do, maybe, does it make sense to put like some sort of a timetable in there and how that's done, accomplished?
You mean like annually?
Review, you're talking about a review and.
How about periodically?
Periodic review.
I would rather do periodically rather than giving a definitive thing. I mean,
What's the
periodically is a
standard,
nice word.
Yeah, we'll just,
Sarah,
this is for reviewing the action plan.
Yeah, to
Right,
keep it up to
the idea
date,
is to-
and what's been accomplished and what we might do.
I don't have the action plan in front of me, but don't we have in the beginning of it for the first action to have an annual meeting of the boards?
Yeah, I thought we talked about
Oh, okay.
annually.
So I think that's how we approach
How
that.
we got it.
We built it right into the action plan.
And
It's built in, we can't back out now.
Yeah, I mean, we should just schedule it.
not at 11
Yes, we
o'clock,
can.
I'm not gonna do it.
Yes, we can. We can back out of it anyway.
Not at 11:01.
This is what we can do more.
Exactly.
Are we all set or are we just tired? Those are different.
No, I mean, we have.
I think the introduction looks good
Yeah.
to me, right?
Oh, the
It's-
introduction, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, then there were only, I carved out three
Right.
action items that were changed between meetings, so that when you see the next draft, it will all be language that you've already approved, and you're taking a last look before you schedule a public hearing. So these were the three action items that were different or changed or new. And in the first one, that we had they were redoing the conference center, and we updated it to be constructing a new one.
Well, they are planning to build a new conference center attached to the 200-room hotel on that C1 property.
And we have that in the narrative.
Yes, I know.
We have that in the narrative.
Right, yes,
The other side.
But this is actually saying that the town thinks that's a good thing.
yes.
Right.
No,
They would support it,
Mike was
yeah.
commenting that they were renovating, but that's the old one they had.
Right, but what the new one is contingent upon the significant hotel. Which
Right.
may or may
They
not,
still plan to do it.
which
and
they plan on, which they're planning on
doing
doing.
contact with the town, we've asked them. They're still.
No, I
Okay,
thought
but
that they
just-
are.
Are they doing both?
They've renovated,
Renovated.
the current conference center that they own and operate, and they plan to build a new one, which I think was this reference here.
So they already renovated the one they have.
Yes.
Yes, I believe it.
So I think, so this should be good now then.
Yes,
And I think this was possibly Brooks' language for the community center. I can't remember now, sorry.
Yes.
That I think we maybe forgot to look at last time. I had it highlighted in yellow for some reason that I wanted you to revisit it.
Next time.
I think that's a very nice general statement as to why we would want to explore options. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
commit, just says explore
Doesn't commit,
options.
as long as it doesn't commit us to anything.
Explore options, and it goes to the planning board CIP.
Yeah.
To explore those options.
Yes.
Not to take wind out of anybody's sails, because I like to see plans implemented, but Mike, nothing in the master plan commits you to anything. It's a plan.
That's why you're the
Plan,
professional.
nobody's ever been able to take a town.
Not committed to.
Nobody's ever been able to use one in court for any reason. Other than to say someone's zoning is entirely in conflict with their plan, but yours isn't right now. So, and then the other thing was we added cybersecurity to keeping the IT up to date. So.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's all the changes. So you've now gone over every word in it except the two things Mark's gonna send me. 2 or 3 times.
Excellent.
Rich, I see Rich getting ready to say something.
No.
No?
No, I'm
Okay.
fine.
All right.
Tara, I have a question.
It's not enough.
Oh, John.
Tara, I have a question on, if everyone can take a look at page 65.
65. Hang on.
It might be,
Back on the draft.
it might be totally petty.
Nothing is.
Page 65, 5.3.
Moment.
Just to say though, that you're all gonna have a clean draft of this next week to look over for the meeting on the 28th, and that's when to bring your final comments. We were just talking about the edits today.
That's fine.
John, you mean document page 65?
Yes.
Yes. So,
Yes.
Tara, if we have other edits that I didn't speak up about, should I hold them for next time or give them to you before then?
If they're corrections, send them to me. If they're suggested edits, then you should bring them to the meeting, because they might, at the beginning of this process, I ran into suggested edits that conflicted with someone else's suggested edits. And that's why I asked that the edits be made at the meetings, even though it's made them kind of tedious. It's a difference between a correction and an edit.
I'd like to hear what.
All right, so what page?
It says it's
65.
65 in the document.
Under the picture. Or above.
Under the picture.
Above
Okay.
the conservation.
Okay.
What Tara did there first.
Okay.
5.3, the last sentence. This may be petty, but where it says 1.8 acres of property recently purchased, do we really want the word recently in there? In 5 or 10 years, is it going to be recently?
Is this
Do we really care?
Is document dated?
Property acquired in 20, want to say 20?
Is it correct?
Yeah, when did we?
When
acquire it?
was it 2021?
Yeah,
Okay,
So maybe say the year.
we okay?
So
I think it's a positive, because it shows you're actually implementing the master plan already.
Yeah.
Okay,
Check that out.
recently is the correct, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarification. That's all.
So Nancy, if you are gonna send me anything that you feel is a correction, and sometimes we don't agree on that. Sometimes you feel something's a correction and I feel it's discretionary and edit, but I would need it by, say, Tuesday the 19th.
Okay.
Thanks, Tuesday.
Okay.
And that's everybody, not just.
Yes.
I'll look at you guys.
What's that?
For all the typos.
Yeah. Okay, great.
But again, I will be having somebody read it for any typos
Yeah.
for the public hearing.
Perfect.
Yeah, I've got stuff that's, but still mine, not.
Oh, that's a,
Okay.
So I'll be sending a clean copy out by next Friday, by a week from tomorrow. So
Great.
everyone needs to make time on their weekend of the 23rd, 24th, other than those who work more on weekends than like Wendy probably, but the thing locked in your calendars, you need to read through the whole thing one last time, make sure you feel good about this plan. You're ready to be the cheerleaders to implement it.
Great, we'll look forward to that Friday. Maybe Alicia, if we can poll everyone to see who would like, so if Tara's sending the copy on Friday, who would like a printed out version? Because we could pick it up Friday out. Because I would like one.
sure.
4, 5, 6. Okay.
Okay, so you know that.
What time do you, what,
What's that?
that just give me a time deadline. Elisa, what time do you need it from me on Friday, the 22nd?
I mean, just, I leave at 4, so it really only takes like a couple minutes to print them all out, so, 3:30?
Wow.
I mean, the printer does all of it, I just say print.
All right, I put on my calendar by
Make sure you have a
3.
lot of paper around.
Yeah.
You'll have it by 3.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So then people could have it for the weekend to read if they want to go in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so, yeah, grab them at the 10 off.
Or you can wait till Monday.
Excellent.
So that would be Friday, when? Friday the
20
22nd.
22nd, sorry.
Friday the 3rd, so.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's very, I'll be ready.
Awesome, thank you. All right, we'll move on to committee reports. For the town core group, we've continued working on the bike path to direct the bicycles from town square and discourage going through the square to go around the arena. You all have probably noted that lovely stone dust pathway. There have been posts put up, the signs, Steve, are those coming? They're here. And they'll be up any day now? Okay. Just to help direct folks along the path. And then we're also
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
What is the status? I don't know if it's part of the town core group or not. What is the status of the road? I guess it's reconstruction.
the multi-use pathway and the road pavement.
What is,
Yeah.
I mean, what is the status of that?
It came back in under budget with the reclamation that was requested, and it's gonna be from Village Road to Village Road.
Yeah, well, so we have basically an agreement, but we haven't signed a contract yet. We plan to do so soon. And it looks like they will be able to begin sometime in the October timeframe to do at least part of the project, and it will extend probably into 2023. And the plan is still, I mean, this could change because they could come here and say, no, we're gonna do this instead of that. But the plan, I think, is still to start at the intersection of Village, Lost Pass, and Valley, and start on that stretch, going from Village around to the Village.
To get the worst part of it.
So that's the plan. We're hoping for them to start in October, once we cross all the i's and dot all the t's, I think, so the select board can sign the contract.
And
Okay.
yeah,
For I think it's $1.93 million, and we had 1.917, so we got a 1.3, we got to come up with like 17,000 or something like that.
Short
Contingency. So it's close enough that we could sign the contract.
and the aspect of that the town core group's working at is how to best delineate the multi-use pathway to make it clear that it's not
Yes.
some great big open runway for folks to fly down. That we have that paint slash roughage slash wood. So one of our homework projects is actually looking at different options for.
Yeah.
I would add this, planning board, I'm sorry, I know this is going on very long, but
Sorry.
something to keep in the back of your heads, that if this comes to pass, starting in October, they do start working in that area, as much as they can before the, weather sets in. That on-street parking area is going to go away. It will not be here for tubing in the winter.
Right.
So just something to keep in the back of our heads. We are planning the select board to sit down and go over parking and what on-street parking may be available in town. But as a planning board, I know we've wrestled with this issue because of the activities of the Waterville Valley Golf Club. So.
And that's another reason for the importance that we delineate the multi-use pathway as such, not as extra parking.
Yeah, if it happens, it's going away.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just curious, would the multi-use pathway be plowed in the winter?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. No, it's gonna be.
Otherwise, I can ski, otherwise I can
That's
ski on it.
Right, so that is half the reason for getting rid of the curbing.
Huh?
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah, no, that's all, once, absolutely.
Okay.
So that's basically where we're at, right? Got anything? Anyway,
Thank you.
Conservation Commission,
I think we went over that this morning, so,
that's what you've been working on.
yes.
All right, any communications, Steve, that you know about, or Alicia, you know about?
Nothing new.
Cool, all right, so calendar review, we have our special meeting for reviewing the master plan, and we'll also go over the June meeting minutes at that point. So Thursday, excuse me, it's Thursday, July 28th, our regular meeting, Thursday, August 11th, 8 o'clock, same location.
Thursday. I don't have any medical data. Not yet, not yet, not yet.
I'm not sure if that means it matters right now.
On
It
the
always
11th.
matters.
You, almost you.
I will be in Portugal.
Oh, that's a no.
Enjoy.
All right, well, that sounds like much more fun. Anything else that we need before the board? Discussions? Questions?
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sir.
Let's see.
I'm not gonna walk up there, but I am extraordinarily concerned about the spot between